Welcome back to the Whispers from the Shadow podcast. I'm Super Jimmy.
His pleasure.
Today we're doing something a little different. We're ranking Masters of Horror picked by ChatGPT. So I've got 30 of them picked out between ChatGPT, and me and Miz are gonna kind of debate on see where we should put each one of these different authors, writers, screenplay artists, directors on this list.
And part of it also is going to be it's going to be a group effort. This is not like my opinion outweighing Jimmy's or Jimmy's opinion outweighing me. It's we're coming together with this because we both have different views on some of these directors. We've actually had talks prior before recordings or just randomly when we're gaming together. So it's a group effort.
It really is, because like me and him have talked about several on this list before. I'd say probably about a good like 75%, 80%. And yeah, they're pretty good. But yeah, it's just going to be a team effort between me, Miz, and myself, and we're just going to rank these lovely, fine people based off of what's going on.
Or what their works are and everything.
Mm-hmm. So first up is Alexandre Aja, excuse me. He is a French director. If you're not familiar with his name, he directed the movie the remake of the movie The Hills Have Eyes, Crawl, Mirrors, Horns, and the first Piranha.
And for me, he's a very, very good director. I love the remake of Hills Have Eyes. It's a fantastic remake. And like I said, I had no opinion on Crawl for the longest time until my wife was like watching it or made me watch it with her, and I fell in love with that movie. The movie was really, really good.
Right.
So I would like, for me personally, like just based off of those two films that like I personally love, I feel like they're working to masters. They're still like got to come up with more, I would say, original in a sense ideas.
Right.
But I feel like they'd be able to work their way into masters easily. They're a very good director.
Okay, so
I've enjoyed what he's done.
So for me, honestly, I would have to say working to masters, just for the simple fact that he doesn't have a very long, I guess you could say filmography, discography, whatever you wish to call it. But honestly, what he has put out, I do like for the most part, because I liked the remake of Hills Have Eyes, I liked Crawl, I liked Mirrors, and I liked Horns. Piranha was kind of a
that's
buddy
where
cop
I like also. That's fair. I was gonna say that's also with like Horns. I haven't seen the full movie start to finish. I came in like my wife was watching it like 10, 15 minutes in, but I watched it from there for the rest of it. I liked it. It's weird because that was also like one of like Radcliffe's first or second films after Harry Potter. So it had a lot surrounding it. My problem with it, again, I feel like it was still too teen heartthrobby in the sense.
That's fair. I can agree with that, but yeah, I think he would be good in working two masters just based off of that, because I think that because he's only been directing since 1999, which isn't really that long in the grand scope of things, but he's also produced Crawl, Urban Nightmares, The Pyramid, Horns, and a movie called Maniac.
Oh my god, that was like 91, I think.
Yeah, he's been in the film industry for quite some time, but yeah, like he like a lot of the stuff that he directs, he also produces or co-produces, I should say.
Fair.
So I think he has a lot of room to grow still, even with all the stuff that he has put out. But
oh yeah, no, for sure. I mean, every director can go through that. But oh yeah, I could definitely see him like within the next 10, 15 years, depending on what he puts out, like doing really, really well.
I agree. Next up, I'm not sure if Miz is familiar with her or not, but I know he's seen her works. Miss Anne Rice. She gave us
yes.
Interview with the Vampire, Queen of the Damned, and then she has an entire book series that's centered around the vampire Lestat, and she's also co-written and written some books with her son, too. So
Very nice. Yeah. So for me personally, when it comes to most of her work adaptations that people have taken over on, like Queen of the Damned, Interview with the Vampire, and stuff,
Right.
they're hit or miss with me because like love Queen of
That's
the
fair.
Damned. It's a very cult classic. It's a very big contributor to like the early 2000s.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Gave us some great
So
songs too.
oh yeah, I was gonna say like it's brought a lot. Like that's why I say it hits for me, but it misses because I fucking absolutely hated Interview with the Vampire. Like book, movie, I just hate it. I hate it all.
That's
But the
fair.
thing is, I would definitely throw her in the Masters because her influence you can't deny. Like look at all the
Yeah.
like gothic vampire stuff. I mean, granted you could throw Twilight in there and be like, oh god, why? But I mean, it gave us things like Underworld and amongst other
Mm-hmm.
things like that. It's a
Also,
very very big influence.
also, on top of that, when I was doing research on her, I didn't know this, but I found out that she has a very, very big cult following for the most part, and I did
Oh yeah.
not know that.
Oh, I did.
Um,
My sister, hell, would fucking read her books like crazy.
so yeah, I think Masters is good because she has been very influential for a lot of stuff.
Hmm.
Um, and I know I'm 6 minutes late on this, but the ranking system goes S timeless masters, which means that they have been influential in different forms of art forms, whether they were an author that got many books made, many television series made, stuff like that, or they've influenced other genres. Then you have masters. That's kind of self-explanatory. These people are, anything they put out is a hit. Then you have working two masters, which is B, and that one is where they're in that in between phase of either working to become masters themselves, or they want to, or they've got such a small discography, filmography. Um, what's the other word for um, when you have like not a lot of books out?
They're an up and coming person in general.
Yeah, yeah, just up and coming in general.
That, or they're
And
also like they have more hits than misses.
yeah, and that's hard to come by in horror film industry for me personally, just for the simple fact that like one wrong move and you're like, oh, whoops. And then finally, last tier is C tier, which is hit or miss. That means that either myself and Ms. or me or Ms. just don't really have a whole lot to go off with this person that we like, but they made some stuff that we do like.
Yeah, it's one of those like they have some good ones, they have some bad ones, or
Mm-hmm.
whatever, and it's like you can find that gem that's a really good one, or out of the ones that everyone's shown you, it's like yeah, no, it's tainted them. I can't stand that director or writer or whatever.
It's like they tainted my ability to like X movie or C movie or whatever.
Mm, yeah, or like that
And
one
it
actor you can't stand kind of thing.
yeah, like Keith Urban.
Oh my god, that's so fucking funny. I was so confused.
I'm sorry if Keith Urban or Carl Urban ever hear this. I love you both for in your respective art forms. Keith Urban with your acting and Carl Urban with
Your
your
country music, love it.
yeah.
Oh
Oh,
my god.
I swear to God, they're gonna see this, and they're gonna be, and Carl Urban's gonna show up up to my door as friggin' the guy from The Boys, and just, oh, you
Oh, Billy.
cheeky cunt. Yeah, he's gonna show up as Billy and just whoop my ass, or worse, he's gonna show up in full dread uniform.
Oh my god.
I, I would both be happy and scared at the same time.
Oh yeah.
um, Next up, is the father of Dracula, aka Mr. Bram Stoker. If you have not read any of his books, he's only got one that is noted in the horror genre of itself, which was Dracula. But he started writing in 1879, and Dracula was published after his death by his widow in 1897.
And who would have known like almost 50 years later that'd be one of the like cult classic films ever.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Oh, and a fun fact before we even really get into ranking him, after the film Nosferatu, his widow sued the company that made that won the lawsuit. All forms of it were destroyed except for one single copy. And that one single copy is the exact same copy that we have all seen if you've ever watched the Nosferatu. So because of his widow winning that lawsuit, because they didn't ask her for
Rights and stuff.
yeah, they didn't ask her for rights or anything like that. So she won. She won the lawsuit, got the money from the lawsuit, and then Nosferatu was destroyed. But because of someone's intelligent mind, they saved a copy of the reel of Nosferatu, which has been transformed into 8-track, VHS, movie reels, DVD, and Blu-ray. So that one single copy has made it. What would that be, like 80, 90 years? No, it'd be closer
No,
to
if
100.
Nosferatu came out as of right now, yeah, probably be about in the hundreds.
Yeah.
That'd be 100 year, yeah.
So
Yeah.
So
Movie came out
my,
22,
I think so,
23.
something like that. So my ranking, honestly, is because of him that we have all the good and bad vampire books, movies.
Yeah, that's immediate. I mean, Bram Stoker's Dracula, the movie with Keanu Reeves, Gary Oldman, is fucking classic. And then the book itself is timeless. Like this is a man's work that is still like being recreated today because like of it's like the vampires. Well, it's like we're gonna get up to like Godfather zombies and stuff. It's a timeless thing. It's forever. That is definitely an S tier.
Him, I would have to agree, just for the simple fact that because of him, we have like you said, Dracula. We have friggin' John Carpenter's vampires. We have friggin' all the great movies, but we also have what was it? Dracula Dead and Loving It, friggin' Vampire in Brooklyn.
I love that movie. Abraham Lincoln, Vampire Hunter. Like, no, I agree. Like, we get all the bads too. I mean, like I said, you can throw your Twilight in there. You can throw your Underworlds in there if you think they're bad movies and stuff.
And like also, fun fact: there is a literary honor in named after Bram Stoker in the horror author genre called the Bram Stoker Award, which one of the authors on this list, I'm not going to say who just yet, has won, and she was also well, actually, hold on. If I say, I'll say what why she was so groundbreaking in winning it in the first place. Later, that'll be a later thing. But yeah, Bram Stoker, I think, has been super influential.
Oh yeah, for sure. That is a guarantee.
Oh yeah, big time. He's if you've never read the book Dracula, it reads very like older English, and it's dry in some spots, but it is very, very vivid. It is very descriptive in a lot of stuff.
At least once.
Mm-hmm. And to Mr. Bram Stoker, thank you.
For real.
Next up is one of Mrs.'s favorite directors, one of my favorite directors, or one of Mrs.'s favorite horror directors, one of my favorite directors of all time, Mr. Clive Barker. So for those that don't know who Clive Barker is, quick little rundown. He's directed every single Hellraiser from 1987 to the one that we don't talk about from 2018. As well as he
like the remake.
I wanted to like it, but I felt like some parts were just too drawn out personally.
I agree with you there, but I love how well paced it feels. The remake is such a like nice pace. It doesn't feel like it hits a snag. I mean, there's some parts that's like, yeah, you could do without, but they're like very few and far between. The Cenobites on screen are such a commanding presence.
I agree.
Bring in such a like dreading, like overwhelming feel, and I love it. It's just done so well. And then I praise it because I love the like very, very end, the apotheosis scene where he's ascending. Like it is just I love the remake. The remake to me, I appreciate. I love the remake.
The only scene that I actually really had a big gripe about, and spoilers out there if you haven't seen it, it's 5 years old, 6 years old going on at this point. If you haven't seen the one from 2018, is
2018 one.
Is the scene where Pinhead goes from being the Hell Priest back to human, trying to become the Hell Priest again, and that was the like.
It's the origin closing story, which is
Yeah.
why I think they wanted to do the whole remake series, which is the remade one, which I absolutely loved. The 2018 one is trying to give that origin story way too late in the game, which is the main problem.
Yeah, that was
Because
my
the
only
story's been
gripe about that
told
movie.
several times.
Yeah, you find out that Pinhead was in the original when they told he was a French soldier in the no, he was an English soldier, excuse me, in the military, and he had gone off to war, seen like all the horrors of war, came home, experienced all the pleasures that the world could offer, and then was just tired of it and wanted more, and then found the puzzle box, opened the puzzle box, became the Hell Priest, aka Pinhead, and that was pretty much the original origin story that we were all happy with.
It's very quick, simple, but yeah, they try to do this whole thing. Didn't turn out too well.
Clive Barker also directed the original Candyman trilogy, as well as one of my favorite gore slash body horror movies, The Midnight Meat Train.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you have praised that one quite a bit.
And I do enjoy The Midnight Meat Train because it's kind of a suspenseful thriller slash horror, not just a basic horror. And I really enjoyed that. Let's see. He also wrote the book that inspired Hellraiser, aka The Hellbound Heart, and as well as several other books. He's still an author to this day, and he also wrote Midnight Meat Train. I don't know if he wrote the book that inspired it, or he wrote, or just he wrote the script for it, but he definitely wrote something for Midnight Meat Train.
I personally, as a solid master, biasism really wants me to throw him in the time list, but like I don't really see too many like recreations or different stories like that coming out as often as like you would with, vampires or anything. So I definitely would say they're a master of what they do. And we'll give it another few years and see where we're at from there. Might be timeless, might not be.
Yeah, I have to agree because I mean, even though he didn't direct the one from, was it 2022 or 2021 when the newer one came out?
I think it was 22 because I think it was last year. Came out like during the fall or sometime, and I oh my god. Like another thing with the updated remake when it came out like last year, the soundtrack is like I'm one for like OSTs. But there was something about this one that just fucking gripped me. And it's on my Spotify playlist. I play it like almost every single day. It is so good.
It did have some good songs from it too. I do remember that. But even though he didn't write and direct that one, he did have some type of creative rights. I don't know if he was a producer, executive producer on that or something like that. I think he was too. But yeah, he has even though he wasn't directing it, he did have creative rights
Freedom,
as
which he
well
wanted
as
to.
yeah. And so he greenlit the one from 2022. I enjoyed the one from 2022, the same as Miz. And for that, Mr. Barker, I think you belong up here in the Masters. Because you're gonna, I think, like Miz said, give it a few more years, and we'll see where it goes. And oh, what happened to my voice there? And
I didn't want to say it.
freaking voice crack. I'm going through puberty again, folks. But but yeah, I think Clive Barker will be very influential in a lot of like gore focused horror in the near future because how groundbreaking and controversial may I add were the original Hellraisers from 1987 onward, like like my still to this day my favorite line from any horror movie is "We have such sights to show you."
It's such a classic line. That's like their catchphrase. It's so good.
I love Pinhead, big Pinhead fan. So yeah, I think Clive Barker has earned his place in Masters. We'll see where he goes in the next like 5-10 years, because I think he's done directing for right now. I think he's focusing on his books.
I'm I think there's gonna be a big comeback.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. This next one actually Miz has mentioned a few times, but I like it slipped my mind on who the hell he was. David Bruckner.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, a little bit of backstory on David. He directed and or co-directed VHS 2012, VHS 94, 99, Southbound, The Ritual, 2 episodes of 2019's Creepshow, and the 2022 version of Hellraiser.
Mm-hmm. And like as I was just praising for everything on that movie with Clive, to add on to specifically that Hellraiser is just like how it's shot. Some of the visuals in it are just done very very well. I love how they do the like a seamless transition of when someone gets sucked into the Cenobites world, and like the van is the scene that that always comes to mind. And that's like my favorite scene in that whole movie when you first meet the Hell Priest. It is just so good. I there was not a single thing I can complain from that whole like section right there. Made me love the movie immediately.
I honestly I have to agree, just for the simple fact that I did really like the whole like just 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 the visual effects, because a lot of them were practical. There was very minimal CGI with a lot of their effects, and I really enjoyed that.
Oh yeah, no, it's very good.
Because me and Miz are both suckers for practical effects on CGI, and it's just one of those things to where we're like, oh yeah, we gotta, we
Especially in horror. Especially in
exactly,
horror.
exactly, because you can't have too much horror, you can't have too much gore, unless that's like your main focus, and you're just overdoing it. In that case, like it's like,
Yeah.
but I digress.
Yeah, no, so for me, I haven't seen all of their works. So part of me
Right.
wants to throw them into becoming masters
Yeah.
because I feel like they're still very, very early on in the career and they have a lot to not really improve on, but I feel like we need to see more from them to like have that solid opinion.
Yeah, I agree, because one thing I didn't mention was that he's only been directing since around about 2007-ish. So with that being said, I think that, like, working towards masters is fair for him, because even though he's fairly young in his directorial debut career, whatever you want to call it. I honestly think that give it a little bit more time, and he'll definitely be in the master category. I don't really see him becoming a timeless master until way much later.
Yeah, we need to see a lot more from them, but I definitely if they keep the route that they're going, I definitely they're on their way becoming to a master for sure.
I agree. I agree wholeheartedly. Um, Next up on the list is one of is Miz has mentioned him a lot, and I don't say that as like a oh my god so much, but it's like but Miz has brought him up in several conversations throughout our now 11 episodes of this podcast, and that would be Mr. David Cronenberg. For those that don't know Mr. David Cronenberg, he gave us The Fly from 1986, Scanners, The Dead Zone, a very niche movie called The Brood, which if you haven't seen it, I suggest it. It's a little trippy, it's a little out there, but it's well worth the watch. And sadly, Jason X, which we don't talk about that. But not only did he write and direct Nightbreed, but he also starred in it.
And Nightbreed is classic.
Yeah, it's very like The Brood and let's see, The Brood and Nightbreed I think are the two most niche films on this list, except for like a few other ones. But yeah,
Scanners. I do love Scanners. You can't go wrong with that. Like, Cronenberg, like my favorite thing, like I said, I love body horror. This is one of my favorite things, and does a fantastic job. I've not seen a bad thing. Cronenberg, like The Fly with Jeff Goldblum, is one of my like favorite like first introduction to people. Like, hey, if you want to see like a good body horror film, like because you see that slow degradation into like this monstrosity and the way it oh my god, Cronenberg is just so fucking great with his ideas. I can go on.
My favorite scene specifically from The Fly, And oh yeah, and David Cronenberg, very very body gore, like focused
So good.
horror. Yeah. But my favorite scene from The Fly, honestly, has to be the scene where his teeth are falling out, and he's like sitting there
When
and
he's
he's like
hovering over
wiggling.
the sink, and he's
Yeah.
pulling them all out, and then he pulls out his fingernails. Yeah,
He's like, oh, oh. I was like, oh, oh God,
so
why?
good. It's
I was
so
like,
good. I love that movie.
yeah, it's a great movie. And if you've never seen it, it's been out since 1986.
Great film. Howard Shore did the soundtrack to that too, and I love
Was
Howard
it?
Shore. Yeah.
Huh, I did not know that. Um, for me, honestly, I'd have to put Cronenberg into. I'd have to either put him in Masters or Timeless Masters.
So it's a solid Masters for sure. Timeless, I would say in some ways yes, because I mean, like now we're starting to get to more body horror, like realism. If you want to be
Mm-hmm.
accurate, like people are pushing, especially with like Hot Topics or war films or whatever. They're actually pushing that boundary to that
Right.
body horror side because it's more real horror. So I feel like in that regard, we could kind of say it's the timeless, but
Yeah.
that's kind
I
of pushing boundaries.
yeah.
I would feel.
I feel like he was very influential into the gore and body horror esque world because a lot of his this is before CGI was such a big thing, right around the time that The Thing came around, and he was
Mm,
doing his own thing instead of trying to copy what was coming from The Thing, and he turned it into The Fly and made just Jeff Goldblum look horrendous halfway through the film, but I loved it. So I
mm-hmm.
like.
And it's that slow deterioration from the inside out that is just makes it like build up that climax and everything. Just like, oh god, this is horrifying.
Mm-hmm. And he's still alive from what I know. I could be wrong. So
They're
we
still
may.
alive.
Okay. So he is still alive. But yeah, he could easily come back to Hollywood and just make another friggin' banger anytime that he wanted. Because I mean, his
Well,
name
his
carries
partner
weight.
yeah, well, yeah, because his kid just made a movie I need to see. I don't remember what it's called off the top of my head,
Oh, I didn't know
but
his kid made movies.
I think it's his son. I heard about it, but
Mm-hmm.
like I was like, didn't interest me right away. Then I heard, oh yes, someone told me it was directed by Cronenberg's son. I was like, okay, I don't care anything anymore. I need to go see this movie now, and I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah. Let me know what it is. I'll watch it too because I like David Cronenberg as a director, and I think that if his son is a chop off the old block, I guess you could say, I could see him being as good as his dad, if not better, because his
Mm-hmm.
son will probably have a lot more time to direct and
Hone that
do all that
in.
stuff. Yeah, yeah. So I think Master's a good fit for him right now. Um, we'll see whenever they choose to remake The Fly, because we know that's coming. We know that's coming.
Oh, and I'm nervous as hell if they ever do it.
If they do it again with Jeff Goldblum, I will be pissed.
Yeah, right. Yeah, that'd be interesting the way to do it.
Because the actress that he did that with was the same one from Beetlejuice, and she's
Gina
no
Davis.
longer acting.
I did not know she's not acting anymore.
Yeah, no, she quit acting sometime in either the late '90s or early 2000s. I forgot which, but yeah, because it was the same lady that played not Lydia Deeds. What's her name? The wife from
Oh,
Beetlejuice.
Beetlejuice. Yeah, I know. I don't remember.
I can never
Beetlejuice is
remember
not
her
one of
name.
my favorite things. So,
I, hey, I like Beetlejuice. Michael Keaton. Yeah, come on now, you gotta give me something to work with here.
no, I know. I know it's Burton. I know
Yeah,
Keaton, Alec Baldwin, Gina Davis, Winona
it was,
Ryder. Fucking,
yeah.
it's not my cup of tea. That's
And
all.
then the song at the end of the movie that just gets stuck in your head.
Oh yeah, it always does because you can see that
Always.
whole scene playing out. That's why.
It's so good. Next is he's our second author third author, excuse me, on this list is Mr. Dean Koontz.
Mm-hmm.
Little background for those that don't know who Dean Koontz is. He's been writing since around 1966, so right around, see, that'd be 2006 it'd have been 40 years. 2026 will be, or 2016 would have been 50 years. 2026 will be 60 years of author. He mostly writes in suspense, horror fiction, science fiction, thriller, or fantasy novels. His library of books consists of about 130 plus. I couldn't get a for sure number on that, but all of them were like 130 something. Notable works, and I know we've probably seen this on our Netflix timeline. Odd Thomas,
Mhm.
Watchers, Strangers, Phantoms, Demon Seed, and his version of Frankenstein got a live adaptation, which I enjoyed, of a miniseries on TNT, right around 2012 ish. Um, so yeah.
So I think Dean Koontz is definitely a master because I mean he's still being talked about today. He's still
Mm-hmm.
having his works done and everything.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I would definitely throw him in masters because this is also the man that's competing against one of the other authors, like big authors in the horror world,
Yeah,
on
yeah.
this list. And to still have a name during all of that is like really a testament to something.
Honestly, I consider him to be one of the I guess you could say heavy hitting authors out there for horror.
Mm-hmm.
Um, just for the simple fact that like he's been doing it for so long and he's well beloved by the community. On this, if not on the same level, darn like really close to that level of someone we'll get to later on in this list.
Yeah,
Um,
exactly. And that's where it's like exactly what I was trying to say. It's like to still have a name going against someone like that, you know?
yeah, because that takes some weight behind it. Because if you say that the one author is beloved by the other author, then you have like a very I guess you could say heavy debate on both of them because they are both well
Like
loved in
a
their respective
friendly
ways.
rivalry. Yeah, very
Yeah.
good rivalry.
But I mean, the fact that they both get compared to each other after what 57 years
Mm-hmm.
is just mwah. Um. So yeah, I
Definitely
think
a master. I could even probably say you could call them classic and timeless, but again, being compared to
mhm.
the other one, like that's the only reason why.
Yeah. Um. Uh. Turn up your gain just a little bit. But yeah, I think Dean Koontz fits in Masters just for the simple fact that he hasn't. While he's been a big inspiration to a lot of horror authors, I don't think he's inspired his own genre just yet. But I
Yeah,
would
I get that.
I would like to reread Frankenstein because Frankenstein, his version of Frankenstein is actually really good. It's a to make it modern is that Dr. Frankenstein created his monster way back in like the 1800s, 1600s, something like that, and figured out how to become immortal based off of his creature. Fast forward to the early 90s or early to mid 90s or early to mid 2000s. I think it was early to mid 90s. And the monster is now trying to find Dr. Frankenstein, the original monster, after he's become this world-renowned doctor that's like the he calls himself the descendant of the original Dr. Frankenstein, but it's actually the original Dr. Frankenstein just throughout history. And he's made an entire race of like superhumans based off of genetics research and stuff like that. And he has the cure to all known diseases. He's immortal. It's a good book. It really is.
Hmm.
There's five or six um, in the anthology of it, I think. And I've only read up to book four, three or four in it, and it's just a good read. And then of course there's a mini series if you can actually see it from TNT.
Yeah, fair.
um, but yeah, I think Dean Koontz is good in Masters.
Oh yeah.
Next up, this one for me honestly is a hit or miss, and I don't say that to be disrespectful or say that what he did was diminished. But Edgar Allan Poe, because I like some of his works, but not all of them. Like
Which again, I understand that.
for me,
I mean,
my favorites from him are The Pit and the Pendulum, Telltale Heart, and The Raven, of course, stereotypical.
Casa
But
Amontillado is fantastic. Like that's still probably my favorite. For
mm,
me, he's
I
timeless,
guess.
and the reason why is because like everyone always has the gothic look from quoting like back to like Poe and everything like that. You know how
Yeah.
dark and twisted, demented. I mean, you got like Vincent Price, who still a credit that like did a credit like a lot of their
Mm-hmm.
like favorites is like based off of his works. It's very big in like Broadway and plays. Like
Yep.
it's timeless in my opinion. Like
Like honestly, the only like even though I consider him hit or miss, I honestly have to agree because he was the first author to really kind of be gritty in the horror aspect of his works. Because if
mm-hmm.
you read the
Sick, twisted, demented,
mm-hmm,
pretty much like a very norm thing, like cliche now in the horror world, and like it's a
mm-hmm,
lot of it still goes back to his works or
mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
he just that feeling of that horror world. I mean, same with like H.P. Lovecraft bringing in like that whole Cthulhu and celestial forces like that.
right,
So it's like a
or
very big timeless thing. Like I consider Poe in that regards because it's still works being made to this day and or still like
mm-hmm.
that feeling of him.
Yeah, the and the thing that I consider like hit or miss, the reason why a lot of his works for me are hit or miss is because of the simple fact that they all follow the same formula. But I do
Yeah.
respect that he was a very consistent author. All of his works had a specific formula. You had your main antagonist. You had something that was, you had your main protagonist, something that was antagonizing them, and then something that caused either their downfall or them to see their life in a whole new light, which I respect that. Because Pit and the Pendulum ends very grim, Telltale Heart ends very grim. The Raven kind of ends with you kind of being left up to your own interpretation. But I mean, a lot of his works got made into cartoons. Like we had Tiny Toons versions of the Raven.
Simpsons.
The Simpsons did it in the Treehouse of Horror. We had The Pit and the Pendulum, which came out in 1976, I want to say.
It's been
Oh,
first. We had the
with
movie, Poe or the Raven, actually, I should say,
mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
with John Cusack. Like
Yeah.
he's still being talked about. Like way after him, way after him.
Oh yeah, and I mean, he was only 40 something, 30 or 40 something when he passed away. But I mean, his works were so influential that he has a cult classic. If I were to say, oh, I think he should definitely be in his own class of just had his era or whatever. I feel like that would probably cause a lot of people to get very upset with me. But
Yeah, no,
while I
like I
don't like
said,
all of his works, I do have my respect for him.
he doesn't say it's like love him or hate him. Like you can't deny
Mm-hmm.
the timeless stamp they have made on the culture.
Mm-hmm. I agree wholeheartedly. Like even though I've read a lot of his work, I haven't read all of his works because he does have a lot. He has
Oh, he has
70 to 80 works, but amongst those, like the most notable ones that like everybody quotes or reads or has read is The Telltale Heart, Fall of the House of Usher, The Pit and the Pendulum, The Black Cat, and he's best known for The Raven. But he's also known as a father of Gothic literature. So
mm-hmm.
but yeah, I have to give him his respects, and I believe he belongs in the Timeless Masters, just for the fact that he was so influential. Because if you read the Telltale Heart, and you actually kind of read in between the lines a little bit, it's dark. It's very
Mm-hmm.
dark, and it's very psychological. And I owe the fact that I like psychological stuff, psychological horror, and psychological aspects to Mr. Poe. It was, mwah, loved it.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, again, love or hate them. Like you can't deny their works or what they
I
brought.
I agree. I agree completely. Um, so yeah, I think he's perfectly fine in Timeless Masters. I have no quarrels with that. Next up, I actually had to do a little bit of research on this guy because I had never come across the name. And I was familiar with a lot of his works. For me, he has some hits, he has some misses, but I'm gonna let Ms. be the deciding factor on this one. But it's Mr. Fide Alvarez. He wrote slash directed the Chainsaw Massacre from 2022, which I don't. It's not. I don't hide the fact that I don't like Leatherface. He's just not scary to me. I consider him a
Mm-hmm.
horror icon, but he's never really been like to me. He wrote and directed Don't Breathe both 1 and 2, which I didn't really like those movies for personal reasons. But he did write and direct Evil Dead from 2013, which I loved, and The Girl in the Spiderweb, which was actually pretty good from what I remember. Um, he's been writing, directing since around about 2001, and he's actually currently either writing or helping to write and direct an upcoming Alien film called Alien Romulus. But yeah.
Yeah, so definitely hit or misses for some people. For me, like I appreciate everything they've done. Again, I praise 2013's Evil Dead. I loved how it stayed true to like the original two, but more enough modern was done to it, and enough fucked up shit was. There's so many good like practical effects with that movie. Everything is just fantastic about it. So
I
I
agree.
would definitely put them in the becoming the masters if they can keep going that way. Especially, it'll heavily rely on this Alien
That's fair.
sequel, I guess you can say, or prequel, depending on how they want to do it. Because
I think it's
I
probably gonna be a
loved
sequel.
what Ridley Scott was going for with Prometheus and Covenant. I know a lot of people didn't.
I enjoyed
But to kind of like, but to like pick up the mantle for like an alien movie is such a like
That's a heavy
daunting
burden.
thing. Yeah,
Yeah.
it's such a big thing. So I want them to become. I would love to see them as a masters, but
Right.
it's really going to depend on this.
I
But
honestly,
I feel like they are working their way to be there because they are doing very, very good at what they are shooting, how they're framing it, how they want it out. Like they do a fantastic job with it, and the end result you can't deny is so good.
I agree. My only quarrel is I guess you could say it's more of like a kind of I wouldn't even really say a problem that I have with them is the fact that like their level of gore is more body focused because there's a lot of messed up scenes in Evil Dead 2013 and Don't Breathe both 1 and 2.
Yes. But
And
that's where I think like pushing that boundary like really sends a message home,
yeah,
or like really is just like, dude, this is fucked.
I was getting ready to say that, yeah, because I was like that's what made me that's what made me not like Don't Breathe 1 and 2, but at the same time it happened for like a split second in Evil Dead, but then it continued to happen. Like the guy, like that poor dude with the glasses, oh my god, he got
Hidden
so
Jesus.
fucked up. Yeah, he got so fucked up. Like I respect that, and for me, he has some hit or misses because Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't care if they never make another one or not,
Yeah.
or if they do or don't make another one. But I respect Leatherface for what he brought to the horror genre, and I'll leave it at that. But Don't Breathe 1 and 2 was kind of a for me. I was on the fence about it, but Evil Dead, yeah, come on.
Yeah, no, that's fair. That's fair.
Yeah, I respect that. So yeah, I think working towards Masters, if he does really good on this Alien film, he will definitely have a lot more hits than misses for me. But yeah,
Which definitely will push them from like becoming masters to masters, depending on how. Again, I'm gonna heavily base it off of this this movie.
so you hear that, Mr. Alvarez, Mr. Fide Alvarez, you got a lot more weight on your shoulders. Yeah, I think this is probably going to be a sequel to Covenant because the naming is kind of going in like a biblical sense or a legend sense because Prometheus was a Greek mythological being. I don't remember all of the details of that, so please don't crucify me. And then Covenant was another like legend slash mythical happening in a lot of different folklore. So I think Romulus being another Greek mythological name, I think it's probably going to be a sequel to either Prometheus or Covenant, depending on how Mr. Fide works this.
I hope it's a continuation off of Covenant. Personally,
Yeah.
I would love to see more of that. But yeah, no, I know why people didn't enjoy it. Just upsets me.
Yeah, I can understand why they didn't enjoy it. I enjoyed it, and that's what matters to me, you know.
Mhm.
But next up, you've heard us say his name before, and we've talked about him a lot throughout. I
We
think
still do.
probably about 3/4, if not more, of the episodes on this podcast of Mr. George A. Romero, aka the father of zombie films, and even been quoted as in some researches and what's it called, interviews, as a horror icon. Pretty much, if it has "of the dead" in the title, it was either written by him, directed by him, inspired by him, had some form of creative oversight from him, and yeah, he's been directing since he started directing 1968 and stopped in 2017, shortly before he passed away. And then his Living Dead films, quote unquote, are held as like groundbreaking because he gave us like the first instance of zombies ever seen on the big screen.
Yeah, and it's uh, that's timeless. I mean, thankfully we stopped doing zombies for a while, but like
Mm-hmm.
you can't like deny the cultural impact with comics, video games, movies. I don't know how many different types of like variations you can do of like a zombie infestation, showing a post-apocalyptic world that way. Like
Mm-hmm.
is that's timeless. Like you can just see it everywhere. There's
Like
no denying.
yeah, I agree. Because without Romero, we wouldn't have zombie-inspired films such as 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later, and then have another one. What was the not the Happening, the Crazies. Both
The
of those
crazies.
were zombie-inspired films, not zombie films.
Yeah, I was gonna say, or you can even throw it into like video game worlds with like The Last of Us, like that
Resident
thought.
Evil, yeah.
Resident Evil, yeah, all things of this man.
But I would like to know why everybody in all of zombiedom, like movies, films, or movies, TV shows, games, books, none of them have ever used the term zombie. They're all called something different, and zombie culture is just devoid in all of those worlds. Like, come on.
It's great, but love him.
For me, I have to say Timeless Master.
Oh yeah, no, for sure. That is 100%. Because I mean, it's still going to go on for years
Mm-hmm.
that because of him bringing it to the big screen and seeing everywhere wanting to try and recreate a zombie movie or something like that.
And what's funny is while I did a little bit of research on Mr. Romero, even though I didn't need to. I just did it for like kind of a like background type thing.
Mhm.
But even though he has passed away, as of right now, he still has productions with his name on it coming out. Like he has like some form of creative oversight from the grave coming out to this day with his name, just like produced by, inspired by, written by, something like that. Like he has, I think, another 4 years worth of films that are set to come out between now and like I think 2027 was the latest one that I saw, or that was projected to come out. Excuse me. So I mean, if you love zombies, you gotta love freaking Romero, like
Yeah,
zombie video
you
games.
know it all. Yeah, it's just all because of him.
And also on top of that, he looks like somebody's cool grandpa. Like he knows how to hold a firecracker long enough just to throw it and scare somebody, so he doesn't blow his fingers off. Like he just looks like a cute old guy. It's like to think that that guy was like, hey, what if the dead came back to life? We could make that scary. What do you think? Love it. Yeah, I fully respect George Romero for everything that he did and is currently doing from Beyond the Grave. Because, hey, he became a zombie himself. Like, who can
Mhm.
produce a film after they've passed away besides like someone that has inspired so much in the horror industry?
Oh yeah, no, for sure. I love it.
Um, Next up, I had not heard about this author until I did some research on her because she kept popping up when I would ask ChatGPT to give me a horror author. She kept coming up on about, I'd say probably about 85% of the lists was Gillian Flynn. She made some. I think you've either talked about it or I've talked about it. I can't remember which, but a little bit of background on her. She did 15 years of writing as a journalist for like MSNBC, NBC, stuff like that, before becoming an author, and then started writing books around about 2006. And she wrote Sharp Objects, Dark Places, Gone Girl, and The Grown Up, as well as a comic book with Dark Horse Comics back in 2015 called Masks. And we both know how dark and gritty Dark Horse can get.
Mm-hmm.
And she also has an HBO adaptation of Sharp Objects and Gone Girl that became a movie right around 2014. And they're like, she's very thriller mystery kind of horror focused.
Yeah, because the one I'm basing it all off of is a Gone Girl. I did not know that was her.
I didn't either.
I felt like a lot of it was too predictable in some spots. That was just me personally.
That's fair.
But I did still enjoy the dance it was, like the back and forth, or did he not, what happened, the how crazy is this person. Like it's just it's so good in that way. But just too predictable was all. I think it's a very, very good one. I would love to see more of her, so I'll have to watch those shows or her show and read more of her books. But I feel like if they keep kind of going that way, it could be definitely be coming to Masters. But like I said, I'm basing off the only one that I know of, and it's already like a hit or miss. I can see how it goes.
Yeah, I honestly, I have to agree because I liked parts of Gone Girl, but like you said, a lot of it was predictable, so it was kind of like. But I do like the fact that her works like being out less than 10 years already inspired HBO movies or adaptations of Sharp Objects, which I haven't seen. I feel like I'm doing myself an injustice there, but yeah, I could definitely see hit or miss because if she can make something like Gone Girl, make it less predictable, keep the writing the same. I thought the writing was fine.
Oh yeah, writing was fine.
I could see her working on becoming a master's because she's only been writing for right around let's see 2006 2016, that's 10, so 2026 will be 20 years, so she's just at 17 right now, so
very early career, very early,
very, especially for an author, because like as you can see, authors can go on for ages. As you as we've already demonstrated, you got Bram Stoker, who's been going on now for close to 220 something years, if I did the math correctly. So it's and then you got Edgar Allan Poe, who's been going strong for close to friggin', because what, he passed away in 1800 something, I think like 1845 ish.
Something like that. Yeah, I don't remember exactly.
So he's been going strong for 100 plus years, and it's possible. It's very possible. I could see her improving on her story and making better stuff. But yeah, I completely agree with the hit or miss because I don't know enough about her. I've only read and seen Gone Girl, like Ms.
Yeah, I can't base it all off of one.
Yeah, same. So I kind of feel if you feel like our criticism is biased on any of these people, please let us know.
Or I'll speak my biasism, like I said, heavily. at least being honest that way.
Yeah. It's I mean, you got to speak your true self. That's the best form of flattery, in my personal opinion. Next up is a little known writer, director, creator, scary storyteller, Mr. Guillermo del Toro. If you're unfamiliar with him, he wrote, co-wrote, or directed Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. I know he directed that one. He wrote a show on Netflix called Cabinet of Curiosities. That show for me has some hit or misses, but overall I like it. Nightmare Alley, which is a thriller. I don't know when that one came out. The Strain on FX.
It was a noir like thriller. It was really, really good. I loved it.
I'm gonna have to check it out. Is it a movie or a show?
It's a movie.
It's a movie. Okay, I'm gonna have to check that out. Nightmare Alley. That sounds good.
I love it.
I'm gonna have to check it out. I like some noir. I like some noir. He also wrote and co-wrote excuse me, and directed The Strain on FX, which I liked overall.
I didn't watch it. I heard mixed things about it, but I did want to give it a chance because it's Del Toro.
Yeah, it had some really good storytelling as well as effects, and I enjoyed that aspect of it, but there was some parts where I felt it could have had more. You know, it was one of those where I was like, But let's see, Crimson Peak back in 2015,
which is fantastic.
That's
a very good goth romantic. It's so good. For me, he's a master, 100%.
Yeah,
like there's no question about it. And I mean, a lot. I mean, hell, with Hellboy, the Golden Army, like it's visuals. The way he comes up with these, like, best ways to show off the practical effects or the what he's trying to show in front of you. Like, it's just gorgeous. Pan's Labyrinth is also still one of my favorites. There's so much like good with that. Like, yeah, no, he's a master for sure.
Oh, hands down.
I would want to throw them in timeless, but they've inspired a lot, but not enough. I feel not there just yet.
I feel like he has revolutionized the practical effects game as a whole, just for the simple fact that, you know, up until like he came on the scene back in he's been around the film industry since right around 1985, but he's really been directing since like the early 90s, because he's got Devil's Backbone, Hellboy 1 and 2, Pan's Labyrinth, Mimic 1 and 2, Don't Be Afraid of the Dark. Like, he's been writing and directing for a long time, but I feel like his practical effects have made people be like, hey, you know what? CGI is cool when it needs to be used, but I want to see a man in a suit again. You know, like,
yeah.
I feel like he brought that back into the cool aspect of it, and being like, hey, you know, what if we put some makeup on a person? That can be pretty scary, you know.
Oh yeah, I mean, specifically from Pan's Labyrinth, the fucking eyeless man, like, the whole scene was like, holy fuck. Yeah, it's so good. Hellboy, when he's met with death, that whole scene is just very daunting. It's so good.
Yeah, I wish we would have gotten the coveted Hellboy 3 with Ron Perlman, but we got the, what was it, 2019, 2020 version.
I heard mixed things about that. I hadn't seen it yet. I still need to see it.
I liked it just for the simple fact that they brought together, and this isn't, Del Toro had nothing to do with this Hellboy. I wish that he had. But I liked what they did with it. They kept the same practical effects. They kept, you know, CGI to minimum use, but I enjoyed it just for the simple fact that they combined two of Hellboy's stories, which was Blood and Sorcery. The one about the sword, and then the one about him denying being the key to open the gates to hell. Those two stories, I really enjoyed reading those as a kid, and then seeing it done in a live adaptation, because the first two Hellboys aren't based off of any of the original comic books. They're completely Del Toro made, and I enjoy that. But seeing two live versions of two comic books I loved as a kid come to life, I loved it just a lot. But I understand why some people didn't like it. It was good. It was good for what it was. I enjoyed it. But for Del Toro, yeah, I can see him being a timeless master very, very soon. Like
Oh yeah, for sure.
not even within the next 10 years. Probably maybe 5 max.
Yeah, I know he's got works going on right now.
Mm-hmm. He actually has an up and coming Frankenstein movie in the works. I didn't see a release date on that yet, so probably early 2025, late 2024 ish, maybe. Knowing Del Toro, it might come out 2026.
Yeah, who knows? It's here when it's here.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited though.
And that's one thing I love about Del Toro. He never rushes any of his works. None of them.
Mm-hmm.
He takes his time. He takes his sweet ass time with it, and I love that. Next up is a little author known as H.G. Wells.
Wells.
He started writing about 1895. He wrote The War of the Worlds, The Time Machine, and The Island of Dr. Monroe, which I did not know was him. I didn't know that.
Yep. No, for me, that's 100% a classic. Timeless. Can't touch. Like, Wells's work is so influential.
I have to agree. Just he's a very influential timeless master in my personal opinion, because how many War of the Worlds have we had? We had the one in the 60s, the one in the 90s, and then the one in the 2000s.
Yeah, we had several variations of it. And that whole thing like scared the whole shit out of everybody, because this is radio. There was no real way to tell everybody all this drastic news, and them just to read that out on the radio and having towns freak the fuck out was fantastic. It was, and alien invasion movies are always a big thing too with a lot of people. I mean, you have Independence Day, you have a Quiet Place, you have Signs. There's so many. It's all because of like this.
I think he was very influential in the science fiction genre, because all three of his most notable books, which is War of the Worlds, Time Machine, and The Island of Dr. Monroe, all got turned into movies. If you haven't seen the Time Machine from, I think it was like 2004, I liked it. It was actually a pretty good movie. It's one of my favorite science fiction movies. And it's because of this guy that was like, hey, what if we could go back in time? Or hey, what if there was something in outer space? Or hey, what if there was an island of a guy that was turning people into animals because he was just some crazy scientist and wanted to see what he could do? And you're like, oh.
Yeah, no, timeless. And a lot of the works are still being made today. I mean, because you can even say like Human Centipede's kind of a version of that. Like
fair.
Very influential. Very influential.
Very. I did not think about the Human Centipede. But I also didn't know this about H.G. Wells. I knew who H.G. Wells was, but I didn't know he wrote these books. Aside from War of the Worlds, and I kind of knew he was the author of that one, because I seen two different versions of the War of the Worlds. One was his, and another was his like War of the Worlds the day after or something like that, and that was written long after he had passed away. And it was kind of like how the humans fixed everything after they defeated the aliens. But H.G. Wells was nominated for a Nobel Prize in Literature 4 times. I'm sorry, that's kind of influential if you ask me.
Oh yeah, no, for sure.
like, give that man an award for what? Writing damn good books. Like, Mr. H.G. Wells, thank you for your influence on the sci-fi genre, because you have allowed some of my favorite science fiction, thriller, horror movies to come about, because you were like, hey, what's up there? And everyone's like, oh, God damn it.
We've got another thing to freak out about.
Yeah. Like, existential dread wasn't enough. You had to give me visitors from beyond the stars too. So this next one, I love him, and I hate him at the same time. Mr. Hideo Nakata. He's been directing since 1992. He directed The Ring 1 and 2 in both Japanese and English. Sadako, which is kind of like Ring 3, but with YouTube. I couldn't get a real readout of the movie, but it was about the little girl that fell in the well, somehow made her way onto the internet, and now her videos like are just going viral, and every time someone watches them, the whole 7 days happens, and I was like, okay, this is weird. I might watch it. Dark Water, which I love that movie, both Japanese and English versions. He directed and yeah, he directed both of those. Death Note L, Changing the World, the live adaptation. A movie called Ghost Theater, The Complex, Don't Look Up, and Chat Room from 2010, back when those were a thing. But not only did he direct both Don't Look Up and Dark Water, but he wrote them as well. So
fair. I honestly see them being a solid becoming master, or they could definitely be in the master because there's very big influence from a lot of his works already. I haven't seen a majority of his stuff, but what I have seen, I've really appreciated.
Yeah, I would have to put him in the master category just for the simple fact that like The Ring in the early 2000s was fucking everywhere. Everybody was talking about it. Everybody was making jokes. And
very big spoofs. I mean, it's a scary movie. That's how you know you've made it big.
Yeah,
as a culture icon.
Same with H.G. Wells. Like his book, The War of the Worlds, that got turned into a movie featuring Tom Cruise, was then featured in a very funny version of Scary Movie where they had to do the exact same thing.
Yeah,
but
it's fucking.
But Mr. Nakata, I gotta give you your due respect and place you in the Masters just for the simple fact that because of you, I actually got to play some really fun pranks on some good friends of mine as well as like some ex-girlfriends because I legit this is back when cell phones first started first started being a thing that everybody had. You either had the Nokia brick phone that never fucking died, or you had the little flip phones.
Oh my god! And having a flip phone was high end.
Yeah, I had the Razor at the time, and I was watching The Ring 1 with an ex-girlfriend of mine from middle school and her friends, and I went into the other room to make some popcorn, and I star 67 the house phone right at the scene where she picks up the phone, and it goes 7 days, and then hung up. And I did that to her, and it scared the ever-loving shit out of her. Like her and her friends are like, oh my god, because back in the day you could star 67 because caller ID was just becoming a thing, and if you star 67 it hid your number and your name, and then you could I don't know if that still works or not. I haven't done it in a while, so I don't know. It's been 15 plus years since I've done a prank call.
Yeah, right.
But
being a kid, oh my god. Oh no, that's fair. That's fair. I can see where you're coming from with that one.
Because like I mean, how many memes, how many jokes, how many things did he inspire other than like those 3 scary movies or 4 scary movies, excuse me, that are well loved by the world and live adaptation of Death Note. He tried his best with that. He did. I enjoyed it. Some things could have been better, but I enjoyed it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I see where you're coming from, though. I could see them in the Masters for sure.
Yeah. And, maybe we'll see him in the Timeless Masters sometime in the future. I don't want to put a direct date on that, but I'm going to have to put him behind, definitely behind Guillermo. Okay. Or Guillermo, excuse me. I always mess up his name. Two L's in Spanish make a Y, Jimmy. You know this. Pendejo. But this next director, I know Miz recognizes the face, and that's a Mr. James Wan. Directed and who?
I don't know that guy.
He's been directing since 2000. He directed and wrote Dead Silence, Insidious 1 and 2, The Conjuring 1 and 2, Malignant. Let's see. He also produced Saw 2 through 6, Spiral, Jigsaw, and Saw 3D, as well as Annabelle 1, 2, and 3, The Nun, Malignant, I Don't Know What You Did Last Summer, the TV series, and the new movie Megan, which I liked it. I'm not going to say it was a
I
bad
loved
movie.
it. So obviously heavy biasism on that because
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm,
of the main reason is Saw. Like Saw is such a big influence that already
mm-hmm,
that
mm-hmm.
like it spawned so many like different like torture porn horror movies, and
I
some
agree.
have been great. I mean, we got like Hostel out of it.
Mm-hmm.
There's
Human
Pathology,
Centipede,
Human
Pathology.
Centipede. Like there's so many like just fucked up situations now because of him,
Yeah,
and it's great. And then like with Malignant, or some of the other ones that aren't like true, I mean, they're horror, but they're not like true horror to his normal style that everyone's used to.
right.
Uh, are such left field movies, or they're so good though.
Yeah, I
Um,
agree.
but like with oh my god, I just drew a huge blank. But with, like Dead Silence,
Mm-hmm.
I absolutely loved the film. I know it
I
wasn't
did too.
everybody's cup of tea, but like everything I've seen from him, I've absolutely loved. So he's 100% master for me. But I also want to throw him in like timeless because he's inspired so much change when it comes to that like style. Because we
That's fair.
had a lot of I mean, hell, even like with like TV shows, they're trying to push that boundary and like inspired from Saw.
Yeah, yeah, true. For me,
So
I would say he's definitely a master. Just for the simple fact that, like, yeah, yes, he has inspired a lot of work in the horror world, but I don't think he's quite timeless yet. He's getting there. He's very close. He's definitely very very close. For me, this like I want to throw him in timeless masters just for the fact that like Dead Silence traumatized me as a teenager because I was already scared of dolls. Making puppets in a horror movie about that just raised the bar that much more, and I'm just like, oh god. But
it's so good.
I don't know. For me, honestly, now that I think about it, it's actually kind of hard. I don't know if I want to put him. I don't know if I want to say timeless
Oh,
master or master.
for sure, master. He's for sure a
Yeah,
master. Uh, like I said, I want to push him in timeless. I really do, but I want to see more of what he has to do because I mean, the way he did The Conjuring is one of my favorites. I love how well he shot that movie. It came out so beautiful.
I have to agree. I'm actually gonna put him right in front of Guillermo, just for the simple fact that like I do respect Guillermo. I love James Wan films just for the simple fact that to me he hasn't done any bad ones. Now I know a lot of people aren't going to agree, and that's fine. But to me, he hasn't done any bad scary movies. Anything that he's written, produced, directed, have all been like
Good in
majorly
their own regard.
influential.
Oh
Yep.
yeah,
And I gotta give respect to Mr. James Juan because I love a lot of his movies. Because let's see, what was the other one? What was the other one? Well, while me and Miz both are kind of like everything after like Saw 3 is kind of like eh.
one,
Spiral,
3, and 4 are the best ones. I loved Spiral.
Spiral
I
was
was
good.
really surprised with it. I was really surprised. I love. See, that's one of the things. Like I said when we did the which universe would you want to live in? That's why I said the Saw because I would love to see more pseudo killers like that. Seeing like where they
Hmm.
would spawn, what would happen. Like seeing different POIs from like all over the place, inspired by Kramer. Like I think it would be
Yeah,
fantastic. So yeah, that's why for me, like I always want to push him into the timeless, but I want to see what more comes out first.
yeah, because he's still directing movies because of him. Like I went and seen Saw 3D in 3D, and it was actually very like and I enjoyed it for what it was. It was good. But for what was I gonna say? For The Conjuring and Insidious, like he's given us so many different horror icons: the Crooked Man, the Nun, Annabelle, the Lipstick Demon, the what was the name of the bride?
Oh, the Woman in Black.
Yeah, the Woman in Black. like like all of those scenes, like especially the lipstick demon scene, that scared the absolute
Wasn't
crap out of me.
I can't remember her name. I think it was I don't remember anywho, but yeah, I know which one you're
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
But yeah,
The
he's given us a lot. I mean, hell, even with Malignant, the gymnastics that movie did, it was. I think fantastic.
I enjoyed Malignant. I went in there not expecting a whole lot.
Oh, same. But I love the end result because it starts
Oh
off
yeah,
like the first half of the movie is one like super suspense, and then turns into this weird ass slasher. It's so fucking good.
yeah. I was just like, I was like, oh my god! And then at the end of it, I was like, okay, that was definitely a movie. And then I seen James Wan was on it, and I was like, oh, okay, that makes more sense now.
Yeah, no, I bet when we saw me and my wife will like look up movies that are coming out soon and so on and so forth. So we'll go through it, and it's like we'll start like this sounds interesting, this sounds interesting, and then like if we see a director or a writer or a producer that we know, and then we click on it, like as soon as we saw James Wan, I was like, we're there.
Yep.
I don't care what this movie's about. I need no more information. I'm there.
I enjoyed Malignant because, like you said, there was just so many mental gymnastics going on in that first part, and then the second part turned into like this crazy slasher, and you're like, oh,
Oh, it's so good. It is
so
so
good.
good.
I'm actually probably gonna watch it again.
Oh, I definitely am. I'm gonna have a James Wan day. I need a James Wan day because I love all his
Yeah,
films.
I do too. Even though like with the Saws after 3 for me is kind of like, except for like a few, minus Spiral, 3D, and 6. Was it? I think it was 6. 1, 3, or no, excuse me, 1, 3, and 4. Because me and you both agree on that.
1, 3, and 4 are the main ones I only defend. I don't like
Yeah,
Saw 2. That's just me
yeah,
though. I know why people liked it. I just think everyone's really dumb in that fucking film. That's all.
yeah. I think a lot of people could have done that a lot better. Like the hand trapped in the box with the razor blades. Like you could have just easily just pushed up the razor blades with one hand instead of sticking both hands in the fucking box.
Yeah, no, there's a lot of ways around that one, but yeah, it's stupid stuff like that. That's all.
Yeah. Like I feel like a lot of people could have had more brain cells that weren't competing for third place in that one.
Hmm. Agreed.
Um, Now for this next author, she for me personally has some hit or misses because she, or not an author, excuse me, director. This next author, she has some hit or misses for me. I would like to see more from her, but she bounces back and forth between TV and movie. It's Jennifer Kent. She directed The Babadook, The Nightingale, and this short film from 2005 called Monsters. And she got her start on this show, which I've seen. I liked. I don't know if she was a writer, director, what have you, but it was called Murder Call. I don't remember very much from the show, but I do know that I've seen it.
So for me, when it comes to her, I think she's definitely on her way to becoming a master because
That's fair.
though I wasn't the biggest fan of the Babadook, cultural influences spawned a lot of really good like adaptations, even into like the video game world. I mean, like I feel like you know some of the like Poppy Playtimes. I know they're like
Mhm.
reminiscent to like Slenderman and all that, but like that one feels more influential. Like being chased by this thing, but it's super like cute and cuddly, or you don't know what it is. Are we friends? Are we not? What's the story? That like mystery feeling. I feel like it's very big impact on a lot of things. So I would
That's
definitely
fair.
say she's on her way becoming to a master.
Yeah, I have to agree. Well, I don't like Babadook as a whole. There are aspects of it that I did like, and I did want to see. Um, how to put this? I don't want to say do better, but for lack of a better word, do better. I did enjoy what it brought to the table because it was very like I'm a sucker for psychological, so I think working towards master is fair for her, just for the simple fact that like I think she's got more coming out. I didn't see anything with her name on it recently, so you know
Yeah,
she's
I hope we get more from her. I like her visions that she does, and I like how she frames things. So like I'm
yeah,
definitely seeing her become a master. I just want to see more from her.
yeah, that's definitely fair because I like the Nightingale I haven't seen. Monsters, the short film, I also haven't seen. Murder Call I did see and I did like, but again I don't know what type of creative aspect she had on that show, so I
Hmm.
can't really say that was more of a hit or miss. But basing it off of the only one that is fresh in my memory that I can remember hit for hit would be the Babadook, and I just kind of there's some aspects of it that I liked, and then there's some things of it that I didn't like. Like how did the Babadook go from this crazy, scary creature to a giant cockroach just living on their wall, and the family being like, "We got a roommate." like, I'm like,
No, I
wait,
fully
wait.
understand. Like I like I said, it wasn't like my favorite, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed the ride I got out of it, so I can definitely see her becoming a master, especially
Yeah,
like mostly like I said, like how she shoots things and how she does it, and is so good to me. Like that's what I
yeah,
like about her eye specifically.
yeah. And also on top of that, because of her, we also have the "Why can't you be normal?" Insert something that is never normal, screaming.
Mm, yeah.
You're like, oh, and that joke has been used a lot on the Marine Corps. Me being a Marine, I find it funny every damn time. Next up is someone that has been killed a lot in death hoaxes, celebrity death hoaxes. I think probably like 10 in the last like 15 years. Mr. John Carpenter.
This would have been John Carpenter's like 70 something birthday. I'm still here.
Yeah, like I'm still alive. Sometimes I can almost hear his voice.
So heavy biasism. He's timeless to me. I mean, my
I
favorite
agree.
movie from him is always going to be The Thing, but
Mm-hmm,
like
mm-hmm,
he's brought like different adaptations to like either cult classics like Vampires and
mm-hmm.
or like just done so many great works. Like I fucking love John Carpenter.
Uh, Fun fact for those that don't know who Mr. John Carpenter is, if you're a horror fan, I know you've seen at least one of his works, if not a lot on this list that I'm about to list off. He has written, co-written, and or directed or co-directed every single Halloween film ever made. Even the bad ones. They lived 1988. They still live in 2017, which I didn't know he had his hand in that.
I
He
didn't
directed,
either.
he wrote and directed both of those. The Fog in 1980 and 2005. I didn't know that was both him. I thought that was two separate people, but fun fact. Escape from LA, Ghost of Mars, which I love that movie. It's very like
I
Mad Max in space.
I love that movie. It's so good. It's so cheesy, but it's so good. It's one of
I
my
agree.
favorite films.
It's really good. Of course, The Thing can't go without mentioning that. 1982, 1998's John Carpenter's, which has his name on it. Don't know how you can miss that. Vampires, 1983 Christine, and Village of the Dam, as well as Big Trouble in Little China, which I did not know was John Carpenter. I did not
No,
know
I
he did
did.
that.
I did. Escape from LA.
I
Come
didn't know
on.
he did Escape from LA or Big Trouble in Little China. The other ones I knew he did. I've seen those, but I have to say, you know, he's also starred in, directed, and helped write like horror movie documentaries.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Oh yeah, no, he's timeless. You can't go wrong. And
oh
again,
yeah, no, big time
you
timeless.
kind of have to owe him for the slasher style of films because of
Yes,
Halloween.
yes. Also, fun fact: I did not know this until I started doing research on him. But Mr. Carpenter not only is a writer, screenplay artist, director, and just all around filmography specialist, he's also a composer and and musician. I did not know
Mm-hmm.
that. He composed the original Michael Myers theme, which has become an icon across all horror genres. Like as soon as
Oh
like
yeah,
anybody that's ever seen a scary movie with John Carpenter's name on it, specifically Halloween, they hear that sound, they're like,
yeah. Oh yeah.
so
No,
I have to
big fan.
I have to give him so much friggin' due respect on his compositions, and I have to honestly place him right up here with Romero because these two icons just they gave us so much in just the short time that they were here, and when John Carpenter comes back from the grave again.
I was gonna say I was like, wait, did we just say he's not dead?
I know. I just wanted to be a part of the hoax. I want to participate too, Dad. But yeah, if he sees this video and he comments on it, I will literally die. Like you know,
Oh, dude, I don't know what I do.
I
Oh
would
no.
probably that would be the highlight of my life, is just to either meet him, get a kudos from him, or so much as just be in the same room as him. He's one of my favorite horror director, writers, composers all time.
Oh yeah. No. Agreed. 100%.
Next up, Mrs. mentioned him before, and I didn't have a face to the name, so my mind just friggin' data dumped for me. He is a hit or miss type of type of director. I love the guy. I love his works, but some of them I kind of are like, and that's John Fawcett. For him, he directed and co-wrote Ginger Snaps, uh, directed Orphan Black, which I have not seen, directed Bitten, a TV series, which I loved. I loved both Ginger Snaps and Bitten. Lost Girl, and I regret to say one episode of Blade, the TV series from 2006.
So yeah, very very hit or miss for me as well. Like
Yeah.
he's got things going for him, but like I think like the majority of them are like just meh, kind
Yeah.
of toss over, pass over, you know, like it's whatever.
Like I think he where he really shines is in anything that has to do with werewolves or like lycanthropy in general. That's where he really shines. Anything outside of that is kind of like a 50-50 shot for me.
Yeah, I need to see more to have like a bigger opinion, but as of right now,
Mhm.
it's very hit or miss.
Yeah, because I've heard mixed things about Orphan and Black. I watched Blade from 2006. Regrettably, you're not missing much. It's something that happened. I'll say that. And I've seen Lost Girl. Those like based off of those three, actually based off of those two, the two that I have seen, which is Lost Girl and Blade from 2006. Miss both of those are misses. Ginger Snaps, love Ginger Snaps, and Bitten. I loved Bitten. That was a good TV show. I wish I had gotten more of it, but um, yeah, I think it got canceled or it didn't get renewed or whatever the case is. So, Mr. John Fawcett, I like you're very hit or miss, but what he does well. I have to give him kudos on that
Yeah, fair, fair.
because I mean, Ginger Snaps was iconic in my opinion for like the werewolf genre of horror because it wasn't very much visual as it was like story oriented, and it was kind of like mm, it's
Fair, fair.
but yeah, in order for me to give him a higher ranking, I agree with Miz. I'd have to see more from him because while I do love two of his hits, he's got a lot of misses with me. Do better, Mr. Fawcett. Next up is the only one on this list that is a primarily comedy director. And I don't know if he's alive or if he's passed on. I think he's still alive. Is Mr. John Landis. If
Name not ringing the bell. I'm
I,
drawing a blank on the name right now. The
yeah,
face.
it did on me too. Background on Mr. John Landis. He started directing right around 1973. Most of his comedy movies have John Belushi in them. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Animal House, Blues Brothers, those types of movies. I love those movies.
That name sounds familiar. Okay, okay.
He directed Innocent Blood, Twilight Zone, the movie, Fear Itself, and a little werewolf movie called American Werewolf in London.
Mm-hmm. Yep. I was like, not recognizing the name because I haven't seen the movie recently, but yeah, no, that's right there is like my always staple for werewolf movies. So for
Yeah,
me, it's always gonna be a master for sure.
yeah. It's funny because he's the only person on this entire list that is a comedy centered like
Director,
director. But he all of his like horror movies have like that element of like some type of black
shock and awe,
comedy,
or
and yeah,
yeah, and it's very like just hit. Like it's not even like a build up in some senses. Sometimes it's just thrown in there. It's so good.
but yeah, I love Jack's line in American Werewolf in London. You killed me, man. You fucking killed me. But yeah,
Oh yeah. I didn't mean to turn you into cheeseburger Mac or Jack.
such
My bad. It's so good.
so
It's
good.
again for me definitely a master for sure. Easy master. Everything they've done for me like that I've seen, it's been super good. Whether it's comedy or especially in their horror world too, it just never
Mm-hmm.
missed to me.
He's the only director in this entire list that has crossed multiple genres, because not only has he done comedy and horror, he's also done like I think he's also done like a few like feel good movies like love and stuff like that. I don't want to say chick flick because that just seems cliche to say to me, because
Mm-hmm.
you know I like a good uh I like Princess Bride, and that
Oh,
supposedly
it's
is a chick flick, quote unquote.
yeah, there are a lot of things to be considered that, but yeah, I know what you mean. Don't worry.
Yeah. So John Landis, even though you've only done a very few uh horror movies, you've done them very well. I've
Oh
seen the
yeah,
Twilight Zone movies so many times.
oh yeah, it's good. It's so good.
So good. There's something on the wing, man. I don't see I don't see anything. Ah, and it's just sitting right there. But next up is a very I think everything that this director has done, even though he's only been directing since right around 2017, but he's been writing for shows, movies, and stuff like that since right around 2003, is Jordan Peele. And so far, he has not had one single miss on any of his horror movies.
So I definitely will put him in the masters because he has a very good like background. He's got a lot of stuff
I
that
agree.
goes very
I agree
very
with that.
well. His movies that he's done, because everyone was very concerned about him being primarily comedy and then going to like the horror, especially with Us, the very first film
Mm-hmm.
that everyone was able to see this. It had that very real feel for one. It
Mm-hmm.
had
Mm-hmm.
a very very good pacing, like just the way he shoots things. I feel like that one was a little bit like different from oh my god, Get Out. Like Get Out's the first one that anyone like really heard of this. That's the one I was
Yep.
trying to remember. Sorry, not Us. It was Get Out. It's very real. Say, I guess you could say the same with Us as well in some senses, but
Yeah.
just everything he does is really really good. Him being more horror oriented now is like really making me excited because I like because he's not a typical storyteller.
Yeah.
It's not just like A B. It's very different. Like especially with his newest one, Nope. Like I
Yep.
absolutely loved how all over the place it was, and
It
there's so
was.
many
It was
good
very all over the
scenes.
place.
And I think he's a master for sure.
Yeah.
He's
I
doing
honestly
a
see him
very
being
good job at
massive.
it.
Very. And what I find very funny is the fact that like how much criticism he received on Get Out when he was making his directorial debut back in 2017. They're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Oh, how is a horror how is a comedian going to be able to write horror?" Like everyone was speculating on what the film was going to be and all that stuff. And then as soon as the critics got their hands on it, they were ready to tear it apart. And everybody was like, "Wait a minute." And I know Jordan Peele was just like sitting there like, "Told you."
Social commentary.
Yeah, because Jordan Peele has never directed. From what my research showed, he had never directed prior to 2017. But he had been writing for like Mad TV, his show Key and Peele, since around about 2003. That's how he got his start on Mad TV, was as one of their writers for their sticks, their comedy, all that stuff. So uh, he's been writing for quite some time. But with Get Out, Us, Nope, and the fact that he wrote Candyman from 2021, like I've
Mm-hmm.
loved all of them
Yeah,
so far.
yeah. No, I was really impressed with the remake of Candyman. I really liked it.
Hmm. I was skeptical because I like with me personally, it's always like, oh, they're doing a remake of one of my favorite horror movies. But at the same time, I wanted to see his spin on it because as soon as I seen that his name was on it, all
Yeah,
skepticism
as
went
soon as I
right
saw
out the window.
Yeah, same. As soon as I saw his name was attached to it, I was like, okay, nope, never mind. I'm fine. I want to see how he's going to do this now.
And I like the fact that he didn't so much reboot it as wrote it in his style.
Mm-hmm.
Like it was
A
very,
retelling, like a
yeah,
very good retelling.
yeah. I was gonna say it paid respect to the old, and then gave us the new. Which I love the fact that they reused the original actor from Candyman.
Tony Todd.
I
Yeah,
love
Tony
Tony
Todd's
Todd.
an icon.
He did good in that movie. Like he did good in all the Candyman movies, but that one I feel like we got to see him more in his element because his voice is iconic. His acting is always on point because he was what people speculated to be Death in the Final Destination franchise whenever he made an appearance.
Mm-hmm.
And I love the fact that like even when he's just in the new Candyman, like when as he's talking, like his presence is not only demanding, but it's like instantly like your mind is taken away from everything else that's going on and focus in on what he's doing, and you're like,
Yeah,
oh my,
it's super good. I loved it.
I did too. I think it's funny how much criticism he received for like the fact that he was like, hey, I'm directing a scary movie, and everyone's like, okay,
Yeah, it was very like,
sure.
oh, how is he going to be in this world? And I'm enjoying his ride that he's doing.
Hmm.
I, yeah, he's definitely a master. He hasn't done anything bad so far. I think he's doing a great job.
Also, something that I found out while I was also doing research on Jordan Peele. Not that I needed to do very much. Again, this was one of the directors I only did like a background kind of uh, synopsis on, I guess you could say.
Mm-hmm.
He co-wrote a show called Wendell and Wild, which has him and let's see, um, I can't remember his name, but he's Key of the Key and Peele group.
Mm-hmm.
I can never remember his first name, but him and Jordan play as either vampires or demons in like their own thing, which I enjoyed. And then on top of that, even though he's only put out, let's see, Get Out, Us, Nope as his as his directorial debut slash writing and all that fun stuff for the horror world. With those three movies, he's won three academy or with the movies that he's put out, including Candyman, he has won three uh, Academy Awards for them, or he's won
Mm-hmm.
Academy Awards for just those three movies. So I think he's made a big splash in a very short amount of time.
Oh yeah, for sure. And he's already done a lot, and I can't wait to see what else he brings. I'm really looking forward to it.
And I also love the fact that he's becoming one of my favorite psychological uh,
Mm-hmm.
horror directors because a lot of his movies deal with psychological aspect of stuff that he directs, and I love that. I'm just like,
Well, I
wow.
like how he makes you think. You
Mhm,
know.
mhm. Exactly, and I'm just like, wow. You know what? You know what, Jordan Peele? Kudos to you, sir. Kudos to you. I think he's going to be very influential and not that he's not already, but I think he's going to be influential on the future of horror in a very very short amount of time.
Oh yeah, I agree
I,
with that.
I'm excited to see. I love what he's done. I'm excited to see what he's got going on next, and it's just like, give me more.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
um, Not to throw anyone for a loop, but this director, Miz, I know he may recognize the name, he may not, but I know he's seen some of her works. A Miss Karen Kusama.
Name's not ringing a bell off the top of my head. What has she done?
Um, she started directing right around 2000 ish. From what I can tell, she's gone from directing in movies and currently directing in TV shows. But she directed Jennifer's Body, The Invitation, a movie. She wrote and directed this movie called XX. It's a movie about four short horror films, all written by women. I enjoyed that one. The Outsider, and a TV show called Yellow Jackets or The Yellow Jackets.
Got it. Got it.
And
Yeah, I see her becoming a master. I like the works I have
mhm,
seen from her. I
mhm,
really feel she's got something going for her. I want to
mhm,
see
mhm.
more. Um, I would like to see a couple more TV shows, and I would like to see at least a couple more movies done. and then I can like have that like solid opinion if she needs more work or she'll definitely be in a master. But the way she's going, she's doing a very, very good job.
I agree. I don't know which one of the films in XX was hers, but I'm sure if I look through the credits, I could find it. But I after I saw her name was on Yellow Jackets after watching The Invitation from 2015 and watching Jennifer's Body, I'm actually intrigued to start watching that show because her name's attached to it. So, Miss Karen, keep up the good work, ma'am. I could see her
I'm
becoming a
looking forward to
master.
seeing, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what comes out.
Mm-hmm. I think I think because she's only been directing for 23 years, which isn't really that long in the grand scheme of it, but she's put out some pretty good ones. I enjoyed Jennifer's Body, even though I'm not a big Megan Fox fan per se. But I think without her direction, I could have seen that movie going very bad, not being as well liked as it was, in my personal opinion.
Yeah, no,
Because
I'd see that.
I like the writing, I like the story, acting was kind of, but I mean that's me with anything with Megan Fox's name on it personally. But putting biasism aside, I did like Jennifer's Body because the directing, the scenes, the way everything was shot was very, very story focused, and I enjoyed the way that she directed that film.
Mm-hmm. I can feel that. Yeah.
This next one, Miz actually introduced me to because I did not have any idea who this person was until Chat GPT and Miz brought up this name to me. Mr. Lee Winnell.
I fucking love Lee. Lee Winnell is so fucking good.
With Lee Winnell, for those that don't know, he is James Wan's best friend. They both went to like I don't know what you would call it, filmography school, directing school, writing school. I'm not sure the name of it. Please, someone tell me. Um, they both went to school together. They both were friends. They both got their startup around the same time. But he wrote Saw 1, 2, and 3, Insidious chapters 1, 2, and 3, as well as The Last Key, The Invisible Man from 2020, which has received high praise from Miz as well as
Oh
myself.
yeah.
He's also, I don't know if James Wan is attached to the Red Door or not. Um, but Lee Winnell wrote the Red Door. So
They're both attached. It's their closing of the series and everything. So
that's what I thought.
so Lee Winnell and James Wan, the reason why they're both like right up there with masters is because they've worked so well with each other, and they've when they've gone their separate ways, they've like still been right there, like fresh thoughts, fresh ideas. Like I said, with them and Saul alone, like I cannot praise them enough for everything they've given to me. And then like seeing Lee Winnell when I heard about the Invisible Man, 100% was like
Yeah.
seeing those modern or the older generation things being brought to modern day times is not my favorite. But it's Lee. I got to give this a chance, and I loved how he shot that entire film. There's so many good scenes in it. There's the way the cinematography is in some spots. There's so much good. So I
Yep.
can't not deny him being a master. He's so fucking good.
I agree. I'm gonna put him next to James Wan because they go to me they go hand in hand with each other on a lot of
Exactly.
projects because
But they're like
him
co-writers or an executive producer or something like that. They help each other like through and through. They're so fucking good.
and I think they have like that really good just based off of the simple fact that they are best friends is that they both kind of feed off of each other's energy and then they just make magic happen because without Lee Winnell and James Wan both co-writing Dead Silence, I don't see how that movie would have been any better. I could have seen it being a lot worse.
Oh yeah, for sure. But no, like yeah, there's just so much right with them. They
Oh yeah.
are two of my favorite like most modern directors ever. Like I love everything. Like it's got their name on it. Mine. I love it.
Yep. I'm right there with Miz because I hadn't seen Invisible Man from 2020 until we started this podcast, and then Miz brought it up in conversation, episode like 2 or 3, I forget which, and I was like, I'm gonna go watch it, and I watched it, and honestly, I like like everything that I love about Lee Winnell was put into that whole movie, and I was like, this is definitely Lee Winnell style writing.
It's just he's so good with it. I
He is.
loved that film.
It was good.
I
It was great.
yeah, no, can't go wrong with Lee Winnell. Like
Him,
him and
James
James Wan,
Wan.
like I said, I'm not into like directorial lives or anything like that, but like with those two, it's like I'm up to date with them a lot. I like
Yeah,
checking in on them. They're one of those few like celebrity things. I'm like, I gotta see what they're up to.
I like they're two. They are two of the celebrities that I am slowly garnering as two of my favorite writers, along with Jordan Peele, because not only
Hmm.
do they focus on like gore, but they also like make you think. Because like if you've watched any of the Saws, the genius behind the entire trap was not only like Kramer in some senses, but the way that they wrote the story to like misdirect you. Like I love their misdirections. I
Oh
do.
yeah.
They're so good.
I also just
Um,
love like the early twists and stuff, especially
mhm,
like that
mhm,
first
mhm.
one. The first one is done so well. It's just like holy fuck, could you imagine?
You know, what, would it be fair to move Jordan Peele up on this list? Because I feel like putting
Oh
him
yeah, no,
behind
for sure.
behind John Landis would be a misservice. So I'm gonna put him kind of in between uh Mr. Nakata and Guillermo, and then I'm gonna move Mr. Nakata back one. So that way we have like no disrespect to anybody, but I feel like ranking Jordan Peele between these two is great because he's making his own way, in my
Oh
personal
yeah.
opinion.
No, I feel you. I feel you.
But yeah, like I love anything with Lee Winnell's writing, James Wan's directing and co-writing, or both of them just working together on any
If
project.
they're both on a project, I'm there.
Yep. And let me see. I had something else written down for him. Works a lot with works a lot with James Wan was the big one. But let's see. Yeah, I wasn't sure if James Wan was working on the Red Door because it didn't come up when I looked up his filmography. So I left that one off on him, but I put it down for Lee Winnell because I know that Insidious was both of their babies.
Oh yeah,
And
yeah, and Lee's been in like one of the main actors in all of them.
that's right. I keep forgetting about that. I keep drawing a blank on that blank on that because I'm like Lee Winnell. Why does that name sound so familiar? Oh yeah, he's also an actor too. Jeez. Thank you for making my mind stop saying, why does that name sound so familiar?
You're welcome.
um, this next author I had not heard of, and I feel like I did both her and myself a big disservice. Is this author named Linda Addison? Um,
Not ringing a bell to me.
she is background on her is she has been writing since right around 1973. She writes, surprisingly, she writes horror poetry, horror stories, sci-fi stories. She wrote Little Red in the Hood, The Place of Broken Things, How to Recognize a Demon Has Become Your Friend. I'm going to butcher this name. Please, someone correct me. Sycorax. I think that's Sycorax's daughter. And Don't Turn the Lights Out. It's a tribute to Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, as well as High
Oh,
Stakes, a vampire anthology, and The Beauty of Death.
so I don't know nothing about this
Oh,
author.
and I'm sorry, real quick, I forgot to add, she is the first African American woman, the first African American winner of the Bram Stoker Award.
Ooh, nice.
I forgot to mention that.
So yeah, I was gonna say. So I'm gonna have to throw it under hit and miss only because I have not read any of her stuff. But if she's got that stamp of approval there, I definitely need to pay a lot more attention to this.
Yes, I actually kind of want to bump her up towards working to become masters, just for the simple fact that like I haven't read any of her books personally, but the name of High Stakes, a vampire anthology kind of makes me want to read it just because of the pun that's in involved in the name. So
Fair,
like,
fair.
and I mean, I didn't know horror poetry was a thing. Like I kind of
Oh
I
yeah.
kind of speculated that it was, but like with her having that stamp of approval of her being not only a winner of the Bram Stoker Award but being the first African American to win it, I
Hmm.
definitely want to like learn more about her.
Yeah, same. I'm definitely gonna
And
be doing a lot after this.
yeah,
I think I'm gonna have to make my wife very happy and take a trip to Barnes and Noble. Oh no.
oh no. Here, let me help you twist my arm. Ow.
Yeah.
But yeah, I would love to see more from Miss Addison or Mrs. Addison. Um, just for the simple fact that her titles alone are very interesting. But not only does she write all her stories herself, but she also co-writes along other authors. So like you'll see her name alongside some other more niche horror authors. But I mean, she's been around the block for some time. So like
Hmm.
I think I could definitely see her in the mass, like depending on what I read about her with um, her horror poetry, her horror books, and anything that she may have co-written that I may read. It'll probably bump her up to masters because
Oh
she
yeah,
is
same.
definitely seeming very influential to me personally.
Who knows?
And I
I
love
might
the
be up in
hair.
there in the timeless.
I love the hair. It's purple. Yeah. If it, like it depending on when we do a little bit more research on some of the people that we don't really know a lot about, if we choose to revisit this list, which I could see us doing, uh,
Probably will for sure. I was thinking the same thing just now.
yeah, I can see Miss Linda being up in one of these two tiers right here, being either a timeless master off of her works or being a master in and of itself. Because like from what I read on her, she has a very adept like bookography or
Yeah, she's got a big catalog.
yeah, big catalog. Thank you. I was like bookography. That doesn't sound right. Um, but I could definitely see her. These two are out of there. We go. But yeah, I could see her definitely being up in one of these tiers because she sounds like she's very influential. Because
Exactly. And I'm
if
pretty sure if when we whatever books I decided to read, I could probably pinpoint where I remember that cultural influence and be like, okay, this is part of that too.
because I think when because there's only like a handful of people on this list that I hadn't heard of before. Miss Karen, Miss Linda were two. Um, and then what was the other one's name? She was early on in the list. She was the first hit or miss. Uh, not Anne Rice. Um, let's see, Georgia Romero, Gillian Flynn. I feel like after some more, these both Gillian and Miss Linda will probably get bumped up some.
Sure, for sure. Yeah, just gotta see more from them, especially since I haven't seen much of them.
Yeah, I have to agree, but I
Red,
put
should say.
I I definitely put Miss Linda over Miss Gillian because of the simple fact that like it for you to be praised and win a literary award in your respective genre, it takes a lot, in my personal
Oh
opinion.
yeah. Well, winning that award in general is always a lot.
It carries a lot of weight with it, yeah. Next up is the mother of Frankenstein and his monster, because Frankenstein is not the name of the damn monster. I hate it when people say that. Sorry, pet peeve of mine.
All
Uh,
good.
Miss Mary Shelley.
So obviously, I think that's a very easy timeless
I
because I
agree.
mean, it's amongst her other works. I mean, that being the biggest one, obviously.
Hmm.
The culture shock that it's had on everybody for years and years and years. That whole trying to recreate the thing of immortality by other means has been like comic book things and villains and stuff.
I agree.
Like, there's so much that her story alone has contributed, and it's considered also one of the original monster movies that like
Hmm.
terrified the shit out of people, and that's still a big thing today. And people are still trying to do like a good version of Frankenstein in their own respective regards, you know. So
I
yeah,
agree.
100% timeless.
Because I mean, hell, without her, we wouldn't have Frankenstein and his monster. She also wrote a book which I hadn't heard of. I did a little bit of research on. Was the Modern Prometheus? It was an early example of sci-fi. So
Hmm.
she not only did that, but she also was either a co-writer and editor or editor of her husband's books. Uh, but she's out of the two of them, she's the more notable of the Shelleys,
Hmm.
as well as she has earned the title of Mother of Horror.
Yep. And that's again, like the culture influence she has is astounding.
I'm definitely gonna put her above Mr. Romero because of how influential she was. Because without her, I don't think we would have had the Romeros, the Carpenters, the H.G. Wells.
Yeah, no, I can agree with that. I'm on board. Oh,
Yeah.
inspired so much.
When I was a kid, the library at my middle school actually somehow had a copy or a recreation copy of her first edition of Frankenstein, and I had to read that as a part of a book report. It was good. I loved it. I was like, oh, this is where Frankenstein and his monster came from. Oh my god.
Yeah, and it's been like again, even like throughout all of like the 100 years or more, definitely more of her works is like still being used in like from kid friendly stuff to like adult themed. It's so good. Like I don't know any like kid that doesn't know Frankenstein or anybody that really doesn't know what Frankenstein is.
I agree. Yeah, because I mean, like I think without these big three right here, I don't think we would have had like horror the way that we have it today, because
Mhm.
of them having their early footprint on everything. Um we wouldn't have had horror learn and evolve and adapt and become different genres and niches and all that fun stuff. So I agree. I agree.
Yeah, no, yeah, she's timeless.
For this next director, wait, hold on. No, I had that in the right order. He goes over there. There we go. I don't know how that got mixed up. For this next director, Mrs. mentioned him. I've mentioned him. I love his works. I love everything that he does. And surprisingly, he's actually done a lot more work than I had noticed initially. Mr. Mike Flanagan.
Yes, so I love his movie styles more because I haven't seen his TV shows, but like
Mm-hmm.
Mike Flanagan has been a fantastic director. He's definitely a master of his own art. Like
Mm-hmm. I
he
agree.
reminds me of a more extreme Jordan Peele, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Like where like Jordan Peele kind of has still some like silliness and or uh fun, I guess you could say in some of his. Like I feel like Flanagan doesn't, but it's still that
Yeah.
same like impact. Flanagan's a great director.
I agree. For those that aren't familiar with Mike Flanagan, he's been directing since around about 2000 ish. He directed Oculus, one of my favorite movies. He also wrote it and edited it. There we go. As well as a movie called Absentina, which I have not seen, but that it has his name attached to it. I'm probably going to go watch. Hush, Before I Wake, Ouija, The Origin of Evil, which that one again he wrote, directed, and edited.
The better Ouija.
Yeah. As well as The Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor. He wrote and directed both of those. I love those. I love both of those shows, which I'm trying to get Ms. to watch.
A lot of people are.
You'll enjoy them. You really will. You can definitely tell it's Mike Flanagan, and it's very, very psychological. And I, no spoilers, no spoilers, no spoilers. It's very,
I hear it's
it,
very grim.
it is, but it also kind of makes you kind of check yourself psychologically because you're like, am I okay? In a lot of the senses, as well as he wrote, directed, and edited Doctor Sleep, which I enjoyed for what it was. There were some things I kind of wish that he would have left out and put in, but I enjoyed it overall. It was a good movie. Another one that I'm trying to get Ms. to watch, as well as Midnight Mass and The Midnight Club. He wrote, directed, and edited those.
Yeah.
And surprisingly, by many horror fans out there, he is held as the new master of horror.
Yes, he's doing a fantastic job of it. He's really really good. So he's definitely a master in that regard because like already his big five are like some like key points for a lot of people trying to go with the horror and like
I agree.
yeah, he's very very good at what he does.
I agree. I love the fact that a lot of his, I'd say probably about a good 99.9% of his works are psychological, and
Mm-hmm.
like even if they're like Ouija was very psychological. Like it made people feel like they were going crazy in the movie, and it toyed with their minds, made them double guess stuff, along with Haunting a Hill House, Bly Manor, and Oculus. Like I love his psychological horrors. He is easily one of my favorite directors when it comes to that.
Oh yeah, like he's making a big name for himself. He's so good.
Very good, and you can tell his directing style. He has a very signature directing style, I would say, is because he's not like some of the other directors on here. You can interchange them out and not see a difference in their directing style, but you'll tell the difference between them because of the way that the scene is shot, wrote, and or directed. But overall, a couple of them have like different approaches that are very similar. Whereas like Mike Flanagan, same as Jordan Peele, Clive Barker, Guillermo, um, and James Wan all have like their signature like to it. They
Yeah,
with James
no,
Wan, it's the way the scenes are shot, along with the filters. Guillermo's makeup, scene viewpoint. Clive is the way the focus is shift between characters, and then you have Mike, which is like very like, is it you that's going crazy? Is it the people in my film? We don't know.
oh yeah, for sure. He's definitely gonna. I can't wait to see more from him. He's so good.
hmm I think he has something coming out soon, but I didn't get a name or of what it was. I think he's got his hand in a few pots coming up here soon.
Okay, well, I'm looking forward to him.
Oh yeah, I think you'll like haunting on Hill House. In all honesty,
That's what I keep being told, but I will watch it when I watch it. That's all I'll say.
I know. And like when you do watch it, please friggin' just message me and just be like, hey, you were right, you were wrong. This is what I like. This is what I didn't like. Because I know how you are. You're gonna.
Yeah, I know. My wife's gonna be the first one to hear the earful, and then I'll let you know. Don't worry.
Okay. I'm looking forward to this. This is gonna be great. This is gonna be a great time. But yeah, like um, one thing I do notice a lot about going back to James Wan real quick. One thing I do notice about him is that not only is it the scene that really tells the story for me, but it's the way he filters it. Because
Mhm.
like some things have different colored scenes to make your eye go to different parts of the film and stuff like that, and I,
It's
I
that
really
rustic
enjoy that.
feel. Yeah,
hmm
it's that
hmm
rustic feel. It's super good.
I love that about him. He's very visually driven as well as story driven in a lot of his films. I love that.
Hmm.
This next one I have not hidden my dislike for on a lot of his movies. M. Night Shyamalan has a lot of hit or miss with me. For those that don't know M. Night Shyamalan, he's been directing since around about 1992. So right at 31 years. He directed and wrote The Sixth Sense, Unbreakable, Signs, The Village, The Happening, Devil, 2010, which I actually liked. The Visit, didn't like. Split, Old, Knock at the Cabin, as well as Glass, which I still have not seen. Um,
And
but
everyone's little favorite, fucking the Avatar Last Airbender, that everyone shits on, which rightfully so.
yeah, like Ong. No, it's Aang. Did you not pay attention to the source material, M Night? Huh, Mr. Shyamalan?
So for me, love him or hate him, I always still have to say, yeah, they give the due respects. He's a very good and he's a master at what he does because again, everyone's got the what a twist from him, you know, and like his twists in his early career were like really interesting
Good.
and very weird and like, oh my god, this is yeah. um I like some of his new works. The Visit, I really loved. I really loved Old. I thought it was really, really good. I would still say he's a master in that because it is still influential, whether it be the right or wrong reasons you can argue with or whatever. But I would still say he's a master in that regards. It's one of those like love him or hate him, biasisms aside kind of thing. Like regardless of how you feel, like he has a culture impact a lot.
I would have to agree to a certain extent. With me, honestly, I feel like if you took the twist out of some of his movies, it would make them better. Like The Village, if you would have took the twist ending out, which if you haven't seen The Village, spoilers. But the twist ending was that it wasn't the 1600s. It was modern day, just a group of people living out in the woods that didn't want their children to find out that there was an outside world outside of them.
Because the outside world's bad.
And outside world's scary. And then with The Happening, it like the twist for that one, if you haven't seen that one, I apologize, spoilers. The trees were killing the people, and then you had Mark Wahlberg's iconic scene, which never fails to get a laugh out of me. He bursts in the room. It's the trees. Like no context or anything. Like it just him just. It's the trees. Like I feel like if he took the twist ending, if he didn't focus so much on the twist, I would definitely be behind him a lot more.
I get that, yeah, because the only one I haven't really seen that was one that was supposed to kind of put him back on the map in a sense was Knock at the Cabin. I heard like he hit a good spot with it, but then he had to retell what he told in the beginning, kind of thing. I haven't seen it, but like I feel like they had to do a double take on everything, like a recap, like towards the end. It was like that's kind of a weird way to do it, but sure.
Yeah. And another thing for me, honestly, is that what I've noticed with him is he'll have like a good streak of movies that come out. Like you have The Sixth Sense, Signs, Unbreakable. Those are freaking considered hits. But then you have for every one of those that he puts out, then he has The Villages, The Happenings, The Visit. The Visit for me personally, I didn't really like The Visit just because of the twist. Like his movies with me depend on the twist ending, whether I like them or not. And the twist ending for The Visit, I did not like. It was.
I get that. I mean, I saw the twist and it's just like, okay, it's not really hard to deduce in a sense, you know, but it was more of like, I just love the kids in that movie on how they are and how they're reacting to all this and how well they're handling themselves. I think just me and my wife actually really love The Visit. We talk about it quite often. Same with like Old, how that twist was. I know that wasn't everybody's cup of tea. I appreciated it for what it was.
Yeah. And like I still haven't seen Old just yet because like for me personally, not seeing an M. Night Shyamalan movie isn't really
make or break. A lost a waste of time kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more so like
if someone's gonna throw it on and I'm there, sure, but I'm not gonna go out of my way to watch it.
Yeah, exactly. Like I mean, yeah, it's on. Old is on Netflix right now. I think The Visit's on HBO Max. I could be wrong, but I haven't watched either one of them just because. Well, I have watched The Visit, but I didn't watch it on HBO Max or whatever it's on now. But I like for all of the good that he puts out for me, he puts out a lot more bad because I feel like where he really messed up was with The Last Airbender because we didn't hear anything from him for about 5 years.
He was kind of bullied off the internet for a while, yeah.
Yeah, and
everything for a bit.
And not saying that bullying is right, but he kind of deserves some of that backlash. he did for what it was. And the part that really messed it up for me was he still included his signature twist ending, which was that uh uh friggin' Azula. Azula was the next big bad on his guaranteed sequel that he was supposed to have. That was his twist ending. Was introducing Azula, and I was like, I'm going to just go find out where he lives, and I'm gonna poop in his mailbox. That we're gonna call it even there.
So then, would you be fair to put him in becoming master then, or would you rather feel more comfortable with him and hit and miss for you? Because I'm praising him pretty high.
For me personally, I would put him in hit or miss because for the hits that he has, I say he hits way out of the park, and I love him. But for the misses,
They outweigh those ones.
yeah, like they like because the misses are equal. Like we're for like I think for Shyamalan's case in my personal perspective is that for the hits that he does have are like out of the park, like way like they're good. Like the Sixth Sense, cinematic masterpiece. Signs, love it or hate it, I enjoyed it. It was great. The Happening made me want to fight somebody in the movie theater because of Mark Wahlberg just bursting into the room, covered in sweat, panicking. It's the trees. That was the whole twist the entire time was that the plants were tired of people fucking up and they decided to kill them. I was just like, oh. And then the fact that I spent $12.99 plus
To see
tax
that.
to rent from Blockbuster The Village. God damn it all. Like me and my mom sat down and watched it. We thought it was terrifying. We loved it because like this was back when I thought M. Night Shyamalan could do no wrong. This was after I had watched Unbreakable, the Signs, The Sixth Sense. You know, this is way after all that. And then I turned around and watched The Village, and I thought it was so scary up to the point to where they escaped over that wall and out into the free world to find out that it was modern day. I was like, hmm, this makes me want to poop in his mailbox. That's what this movie does. And then I seen right after that I saw The Happening and I was like, God damn it. And then I seen Avatar: The Last Airbender and I was just like, oh.
Yeah,
But
no, like I said, I see where you're coming from. So I would argue to throw them in becoming master because when they do hit, they hit really, really well. But I do see your point of not everyone being a hit and those misses outweighing it definitely are valid.
and then after him coming back from being bullied off the internet for however long, he made Split. I love Split. I love Glass. Those honestly, I would say were really good. But then I watched The Visit and I was just like, because I watched him out of order. I really did. I watched Split on streaming service whenever it was on there. I think I watched it on Netflix. I could be wrong. Um, and then I watched The Visit like right after that, and I was just like, oh, so close.
Yeah.
But
I get where you're coming from on that for sure.
but yeah, I would have to rank him very, very low on becoming master just for the simple fact that like for what he does, he does well. I will give him that. Like his plot twists are very hard to see coming, and I will argue that to the day that I die. But if he didn't make that the main focus of every single one of his movies, I would put him in masters because
That's
for
fair.
what he
I can see that.
for what he does do well with for what he does well, he does very well with horror, but not every single one of his movies has to have that signature M. Night Shyamalan twist ending. Like brute for me, Sixth Sense without Bruce Willis being dead at the end wouldn't have been the same Sixth Sense. It made the movie that much better. But The Happening without Mark Wahlberg saying, "Oh, it's the trees," would have made it better. Like if they would have just figured out, hey, it's the planet trying to kill us back, it would have been like, oh, okay.
Whether that's a unnamed thing happening, you would have been happier than knowing that's fucking trees.
Yeah, like how did the trees become sentient? Who fucked up this bad to piss off the plants? And then the village. Like I feel like if he would have just made it a nameless monster that was attacking the village, and then there was like some secret way to defeat them, make that be the twist. Okay, but for them to just climb the wall, the monsters be people, and then it be the modern day, and it's not really the 1600s. I was like, that was a whole hour and a half for it to just mean nothing. Like you wrote an entire movie where it was centrally focused on it being the 1600s, just for it to not be the 1600s, and everything up to this point was just completely invalid. I was like, "Fuck you."
That's fair. That's fair.
Like take notes, M. Night Shyamalan. Please see this. Please email me. I have notes. I have notes. God damn it.
I have complaints I would like to make with you, sir.
And they are very egregious. I need it. First off, I need a public apology for what you did to Avatar: The Last Airbender, and then we can talk shop. But next up, I had not heard about this author, and I did a huge injustice to her. And I keep saying that for all the ones that I haven't heard of, but like after I read a little bit about their biographical background of what they've written, books that they've authored, movies that they've produced, stuff like that, I'm like, oh shit.
Mm-hmm.
But this name is has a very big cult following, and her name is Shirley Jackson.
Oh yeah.
She wrote The Haunting of Hill House, The Lottery, Summer People, which is a short story, as well as We Have Always Lived in the Castle, which was her final novel before she passed away. I'm not sure when she passed away, but she began writing in 1948. She's considered the queen of horror, and her final book is regarded as her masterpiece. And
yeah, no, she's such a big influence, especially when it comes into the horror world. Like she's like obviously the Haunting in Hill House and like all ghost movies are like really accredited towards that right there because of like how like that supernatural feeling was and giving us that to this horror world. Yeah, she's definitely a timeless piece. Like we still tell horror stories to this day and in that style.
Put her right next to Mr. H.G. Wells. But also, fun fact about her is that her books are have recently began to be republished by Penguin Publishing because there's such a high demand for her books from horror lovers and horror enthusiasts and other horror authors that are inspired by her. But I feel without her, we wouldn't have the Mike Flanagans, because a lot of her books, honestly, are kind of psychological in their own regard. But they are very inspirational. I find her being a very big inspiration.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, no, she's definitely definitely one that needs to be in the time. She's contributed so much.
She really has, and she didn't write for very long. I think she was right around like 30 years when she passed, because I think she passed away in the 70s. I could be wrong, but she, for like the 30 some odd years that she did write, 30 or 40 years that she did write, she did like just each book just stepped up the next level from what I understand, because she not only focused on horror, but she did other books too. But she also got rejected out of writing pieces for Good Housekeeping and other like magazines because of the fact that they considered her to be controversial. But I'm so happy with the fact that she wrote Haunting of Hill House, because I have not read the book. I'm going to, and I love the show that was inspired. The shows that were inspired by her book, both Haunting of Hill House and Bly Manor, they're just great. They're great. I love them. So
yeah, no, she's definitely timeless in there. Yeah, belonged.
I fully agree, because she revolutionized an entire genre all on her own, and to be considered the queen of horror, to be
Yeah.
considered the king, queen, fill in the blank here of horror, I think is very influential in its own regard. And
Yep. No, I agree. And now, as we were saying earlier, this next one, yeah, I think everyone's heard them. I
mm-hmm.
could be mistaken, whether it be the TV adaptations of his books or the
Movie
mountainous movies or
is
any modern horror writer attributes, hey, yeah, because of his works, I wanted to do this.
mm-hmm. And that is Mr. Stephen King. Surprisingly, I thought he was actually much older than what he is, and I don't know why I did. But he's only been writing since around about 1971, so that's 40. No, that's 52 years. He's been authoring books. He wrote It, The Shining, The Mist, Pet Cemetery, Misery, Carrie, Salem's Lot, The Green Mile, which honestly isn't horror, and that's probably one of the very few books that he wrote that isn't horror. Dreamcatcher, Doctor Sleep, The Dark Tower, Room 1408, and has numerous amounts of film and TV.
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So one of the other things too is one of his books that my mother introduced me to, which was not as horror, was I think it was Eyes of the Dragon. Very not Stephen King like, but fantastic book.
Yeah.
So he's definitely 100% a timeless classic because I mean you can't deny his influence on like everything horror and how he brought things, especially for like the our parents and grandparents with like The Shining and so on and
That's
so
fair.
forth. Because he is still like being regarded right now, and still his works are being adapted to this day. So he's definitely had a huge impact, and
Mm-hmm.
rightfully so.
I agree. I was gonna rank him actually very high on Masters, but I now that you mention it, yeah, I can see him being in the Timeless Masters just for the simple fact that he has had a lot of adaptations of his books turned into movies, miniseries, TV
Mm-hmm.
shows. The only thing that I don't like is the fact that a lot of people the only one complaint that I have about him is the simple fact that people herald him as the king of horror, whereas I consider him to be uh more of a modern day Maverick of horror. Personally, like not to
I see
sell
where
him
you're going
short,
with that. No, I see where you're coming from.
but the reason why
It's the
I
way he
herald him.
words everything. That's the why.
Mhm.
That's the reason why. Is the way he words everything. You can so easily picture what he's trying to describe. It may be
Yes.
slightly than everybody else's, obviously, but like you have this like very detailed image without having like a long, overdrawn out process of trying to
Hmm.
explain or elaborate.
And the reason why I also call him a maverick is because he gets inspiration for his books from very weird places. The the inspiration for Misery was he got ran over by a car, or he got hit by a car. Excuse me. And while he was laying in his bed, not able to move very much, it gave him the idea to write uh to write the book Misery, which then became the movie that came out in 1980 something. I can't remember the exact date, or 1990 something. And then his inspiration for what was it? What was it? What was it? The Shining was because he stayed at a famously haunted hotel in Colorado, which also allowed him to write the book, the Room 1408. Um, I can't remember the name of the exact hotel, but him staying in that hotel from his experiences that he saw and had happen to him, and because he stayed in the most haunted room in the entire hotel, number one. Number two, he didn't stay the entire night. And number three, like from that, he took the inspiration from that and was like, I'm gonna make a hotel scary. Watch this. And from that one experience, he wrote a total of 3 books, which was The Shining, Doctor Sleep, which is a sequel to The Shining, in case you didn't know, and there's another sequel to that, which I can't remember what it was, as well as 1408. But the sequel to Doctor Sleep isn't um, inspired from his stay at the what inspired the Overlook Hotel. I cannot remember the name of the actual hotel, but that's why I consider him more of a maverick, is because he just like he gets his inspiration from weird stuff, and I can
That's
respect
fair.
that.
That's fair.
But
Yeah,
yeah,
no, you can't deny his works. That's the thing.
no,
Like that's why he's like easily in the timeless, because it's still a culture hit right now, and it still
mm-hmm.
goes.
Like
Even I'm pretty sure long after he's gone, because I mean, the movies that were done like in the 80s and little mini series and stuff, like early 90s, are now becoming like these bigger, bigger budget films, and like being huge hits.
because I think back in either the early 2000s or late 90s, I don't remember which, but they were talking about turning the Doctor Sleep book into a mini series, which we got the Doctor Sleep movie from, which I don't remember. I said the name, and I'm going to kick myself for this later, but I don't remember. One of the directors listed above directed that film, and
Mm,
I think I think it turned out pretty good. I enjoyed the film. I think if you haven't seen it and you like horror, that's kind of like thrilling yet suspenseful, you'll enjoy that movie. Um, Whereas like I wasn't a big fan of Pet Cemetery the book, but I loved the movie.
that's fair. I do have that with some of his
Yeah,
works too.
and I have the adverse on some of them too. Like let's see, the Dark Tower. That's the one. Dark
Oh yeah,
Tower. I haven't seen the movie yet, but
I haven't either. I've heard mixed things about it, so I'm like
yeah.
very hesitant to. I really want to, because those are childhood books that I grew up with.
Mm-hmm. And the like, I wasn't a big fan of the book per se, but I hear that the movie adaptation is supposed to respect the book but do its own thing, and I can
Yeah,
definitely
I
dig
heard
that.
they kind of did like one and two together. It was a weird thing either way, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I need to see it still.
I agree. So yeah, like like for me, he's a hit or miss on some of his books to movie adaptations and vice versa. Whereas like there's some things I'd wish that they'd include from the movies or from the books in the movies, and there's some things that I wish that the movies would have avoided that the books had in them that they included. But and then me not liking some of the movies, whereas I like some of the books on some of the things. Like The Shining book,
Yeah.
way scarier than the movie. I love the movie, love the book, but with like Pet Cemetery, didn't like the book, loved the movie.
Hmm. No, I agree.
Um, and yeah, I see him being a timeless master long after he's gone. Which surprisingly, I didn't know this until we did our trivia. Didn't know his son was also an author.
Yeah, when they did the Into the Tall Grass, I think it was
Mm-hmm.
Joe Hill. Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't know they co-wrote stuff together. That's pretty cool, honestly, in my personal opinion. But this next one is I this one I love him as a director, but at the same time I hate him.
Love hate
And that,
relationship.
yeah, it's a director called Takashi Shimizu. If you're not familiar with the name, he wrote and directed Grudge 1, 2, 3, and 4 in both the English and Japanese versions, as well as Night Cry, Innocent Curse, Dark Tales from Japan, and Go Home.
So for me, he's working his way to be master. I like his works that I have
Yes.
seen. It's just not my type of horror, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
But I
And
see what he's doing, and I see how he is, and he's very, very good. I can see him honing in that craft and becoming a master for sure.
oh yeah. And one thing that I do got to praise him for is that a lot of from the movies that I've seen of his, as well as like the research that I've done on the movies that I haven't seen of his, a lot of his movies are centered around Japanese folklore. Like The Grudge is
Mhm.
about, I can't remember the name of it, but it's about an angry spirit that dwells in homes. Um, Dark Tales from Japan, that's kind of self-explanatory. Um, and then Go Home, Night Cry, Innocent Curse, like all of those are focused around like Japanese urban, Japanese myths as well as legends that have traumatized countless people throughout that country for ages upon ages.
Yeah,
So
no,
I
they're
respect
very,
that.
very good. So yeah, I can definitely see them becoming a master.
Mhm.
Just a little bit more, but definitely can see it happening.
Yeah, I was gonna rank him lower on the Masters just for the right behind Mr. Nakata because they're the only two Japanese and or people that have directed their exact same films in both English and Japanese as well as like other languages as well because
Hmm.
they inspired American film producers to be like, hey, you want to make that over here with us too, please? Pretty please. Yeah,
For real,
sure.
yeah.
Like I think that's pretty cool. But he's also the only one on this list that is lore focused, where I respect that. I like lore, I like history, I like legends, urban legends, myths, stuff like that. And he's the only one that inspired that. But for what I think is actually really funny is that Candyman had the adverse. It had or not adverse. It had the reverse of that because Candyman, as you remember as a kid, the movie came out, and then the urban legend followed,
Hmm.
and I thought that was hilarious. And looking back at it now, because when we were kids, we had the Bloody Mary urban legend,
Yeah,
and then the Candyman urban legend followed after we saw the movie, and then we were like, wait a minute.
yeah, for real.
But last one on the list, is an
Certainly,
instant.
certainly not least.
Oh, definitely not. We saved one of the best for last. One of the most influential directors, in my personal opinion, to have had his thumb in the pie that is horror, Mr. Wes Craven.
And that to me is a immediate timeless. Not
I agree.
only for the fact of like with Freddy, that he brought us this like amazing serial killer kind of thing. Like
Hmm.
he's
Hmm.
had two really big like characters stapled in horror, which is Freddy and Ghostface. Like
Hmm.
to have two iconic things attached to horror, like within a few years of each other. It's like what I think like 10, 15 years apart.
If that,
Like
yeah.
it's so good.
And the reason why I'm even like I will even argue that this man is a timeless master is because he was the first horror director to give us killers with personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Because before that we had our Leatherfaces, we had our Michael Myers, we had our Jasons, which I love. I love horror. I love Michael Myers. I love Jason for their own respective rights. But Freddy was the first serial killer slash supernatural entity to give us a personality because he wasn't quiet. He didn't just stalk you. He made jokes about killing you. He made jokes that hurt your feelings. He called you
Yeah, he's a dick.
names. Yeah, and then to follow that up to single-handedly create Ghostface, who also had a personality. He wasn't just a killer. He had a method. He had a madness, and he made it. And whether it be one killer or several killers throughout the movie, they
Mm-hmm.
all had their own personalities and their own traits that made each Ghostface a different version of the same killer. And I like that.
Yeah. No, it was done really, really well. Yeah, like I don't know what else to say with Wes. I mean, he's brought so many good things. I mean, he's got
Hmm.
so many good films, not just in his horror repertoire, but like he's just so good, so fucking good. I love Wes Craven.
And what's really funny is that I didn't know some of these movies were his. I had to go back and double check, but he wrote and directed Screams 1 through 4. 5 and 6 are have his name on them in some way, shape, or form. 5 is or yeah, 5 is accredited with is giving credit to him in remembrance of him, and 6, of course, is a continuation of that.
Mm-hmm.
But he also wrote and directed The Last House on the Left in 1972. Did not know that was him. All Nightmare on Elm Streets, even the bad ones, which, Wes Craven's New Nightmare for Miz and the reboot that came out.
I appreciate the reboot, but yeah, no.
Yeah.
Like I said, like Hills Have Eyes, the original one is like one of the first iterations I ever had of an encounter with Wes Craven. Same with Nightmare on Elm Street.
Mm-hmm.
It's such a staple for my like adolescence into loving the horror world because of that. And that's why, like I said, like Nightmare on Elm Street 3, Dream Warriors is my absolute favorite because it like
I agree.
continues off Craven's original idea without really being too bad or too over the top or whatever, like too B
I
feel. And it was
yeah.
so good. And plus, it's such a better improvement than 2.
I like Dream Warriors because they were like, wait, we're in our dream. Why can't we fight back? And I was just like, I've been saying that for the last 2 movies.
So good. Just, oh, yeah, timeless, 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 timeless.
Another one I didn't know that he directed was Vampire in Brooklyn. He helped write that, and I don't know to what capacity, but he helped write that as well as direct that, and that makes sense. As well as writing and directing The People Under the Stairs, one of my all-time favorite horror movies. The Twilight Zone in 1985 to 1986 for 5 episodes, as well as Cursed from 2005, a movie called My Soul to Take, which I liked. A lot of people didn't.
I appreciated that one.
I liked
it. Was a very good, like, bringing back that teenage fear, like Scream did.
Mm-hmm.
You
Mm-hmm.
know,
Mm-hmm.
like it did a very good job of it. I appreciated that film.
I also like the fact that it kind of delved more into the supernatural aspect, and it wasn't
Mm-hmm.
just a slasher. But looking back at it now, I could definitely see some of Wes Craven's influence on that.
Oh yeah,
Um,
always.
and of course, The Hills Have Eyes, both 1 and 2 from 1977 and 1984.
Mm-hmm.
And I did not know that he wrote the originals to Last House on the Left, The Hills Have Eyes 1 and 2, as well as Vampire in Brooklyn and The People Under the Stairs. I did not know
Yeah.
he had his. Did not have.
So
I didn't know that he had that on there.
yeah, no. So Last House on the Left, it was the original is really really good.
Yeah.
It's pretty messed up, and then like that is still the one remake that I feel did such a good job with a very specific scene in the like for the sake of the scene, like all the right ways to make the audience super uncomfortable because that scene is
Yeah.
still super hard to watch. Like I remember like being in theaters being like, I can't look away. This feels too real, and that's what I love, and that's like what Wes Craven's ideas really bring. Because even in the original, it feels that way too. It's like, oh my god, to kind of keep that feeling from a movie that's like 30-40 year gap is so impressive.
I agree. And the fact that like he kind of with and the fact that he not only gave like killers personalities, but he wasn't scared to kind of like think outside the box with like
It,
his horror in and of itself. Because like I mean, he wrote People Under the Stairs. Like
mm-hmm.
how did he make like a home invasion turn into a friggin' horror movie, turn into something that wasn't even meant to be a horror in the first place? You know, like how did he make that scary? Like it takes a lot of skill to do what Wes Craven did, and
Oh yeah.
not and he was doing this well before Stan Lee, and respect and rest in peace to Stan Lee. But not only was he writing and directing his films, but he also made a lot of cameos throughout a bunch of his films.
Oh yeah.
And I didn't I looking back at it now, I knew that, but I did not know that at the same time.
Yeah, I feel you. It's like M. Night Shyamalan does the same thing in all of his films.
Yeah, because he was the drunk driver that killed Bruce, or not Bruce Willis's wife, freaking
Mel Gibson.
Mel Gibson's wife in Signs. Thank you. I almost pulled another Keith Urban, Carl Urban. That one would have been way worse.
Oh yeah, for sure.
But yeah, like I do like the fact that Wes Craven, like, he influenced the horror genre in a completely new direction, whereas like a lot of horror directors put their own spin on it. He made his own spin, and I thoroughly enjoyed everything that he made. And he, even now to this day, has stuff coming out that was influenced by him.
Oh yeah, and he's still again one of the godfather of horrors because like everyone will always attribute like Nightmare on Elm Street being like one of the things that set them over the edge or like fell in love with it because it's timeless. Like it's gonna be a staple for the horror genre
and
of all time.
and And what's also really really funny is that two of his two most iconic killers, that being Ghostface and Freddy, were adapted into not only movies, but Freddy got his own TV show in the '90s for a little
Mm-hmm.
while. It was, I think it was like Freddy's Nightmare or something like that. And then both of them got adapted into video games
Mm-hmm.
bef- before Wes Craven passed away. And they're both
Yeah,
on Dead by Daylight.
it's so good.
It is
And he's
so
also
good.
made cameo in well, Freddy was made cameo in Mortal Kombat.
And he was one of my favorite characters to play with once you if you had the DLC for him, but I did not.
Yeah,
My friends did, but I didn't.
I made sure to get that DLC. That was 100% let's get.
Oh yeah, I completely agree. But yeah, that wraps up our list of the 30 most influential masters of horror and all that fun stuff. Um, let us know your guys' thoughts, whether you agree, disagree, learn something new, got introduced to a new director, author, screenplay artist, what have you. Because I love to hear feedback on this type of stuff.
Oh yeah, no, same. I was gonna say, let us know who some of your favorites are.
Yeah, because I think we hit a lot of the big names and some that were actually really really niche that I hadn't heard of.
Oh yeah, that's fair. Yeah, because there was some that we both haven't heard like that are in the hit and misses, and we
Mm-hmm.
need more of it.
Yeah, I completely agree. Uh, but from me, until next time, everyone.
Yeah, from me too. We'll see you on the next one. I'm really looking forward to it because we have a surprise here coming up in a couple episodes.
Exactly, a couple episodes too. So
Yeah, exactly.
it's gonna be great.
Can't wait.
Me either. But bye.
Bye.